Parker Destin.
Present.
David Drysdale.
Present.
Michael Francis.
Present.
Rick Gonzalez.
Present.
David Hoyt.
Present.
Kathleen Kaufman. Present. John Phelps. Cliff Smith, I believe is trying to call in right now. Frank Terraferma.
Present.
Quorum is confirmed.
Okay. The next step is to introduce ourselves. We have several new commissioners, and so that will be interesting and new to us. My name is Judy Bentz. I am President Emeritus and Professor Emeritus at the University of West Florida. I'm an archaeologist. I specialize in Spanish colonial historical archaeology, but I've done all kinds of archaeology in my career. I have spent my career working in West Florida, west of the Apalachicola River primarily, and it has been a very interesting career. I've been head on this commission when it started for the first 8 or 9 years. Then I had to go be president when you can do absolutely nothing else. And then I put my name in the hat for to come back. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So why don't we start with you, Parker, and then we'll go around the table.
My name is Parker Destin. I am I'm a person who owns and operates restaurants in Northwest Florida. And besides that, I'm a passionate student of Florida history. Proud to be here. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Kathleen Kaufman. I'm currently the Historic Preservation Officer for the City of Gainesville. I actually started my career at the Division of Historical Resources here in Tallahassee, and I've been the Historic Preservation Officer for several municipalities around the state and Preservation Chief for Miami-Dade County for 10 years. I did a brief stint as the Executive Director of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. I currently am Vice Chair of the National Register Review Board with Rick, and I am a trustee of the University of Florida's Board of Advocates for Historic Preservation.
Good morning. My name is Rick Gonzalez. I've been on the board, I think, 14 years now. Wow. Charlie Chris, right? So that's a while back. I'm the chairman of the National Review Board with Kathleen. Own my own architectural practice, REG Architects, in West Palm Beach, Florida, celebrating our 35th year this year. I'm a former vice chair of the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation in Washington, D.C. That was a fun stint, thanks to President Trump. And emeritus trustee of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. And I love all things historic preservation in the state of Florida.
David Drysdale. I'm from St. Augustine, and due to advanced age, I've been there a long time, involved in a lot of things. I have the St. Augustine Alligator Farm and Zoological Park, which is, for years, been on the National Register of Historic Places. I've also been on the board of trustees of Flagler College and the Leitner Museum in St. Augustine for many years, those both historic buildings. So I've been a bit of a minor student of history, starting in St. Augustine, but around the state as well, and privileged to be here.
Frank Terraferma. I'm a longtime resident of Tallahassee now, although I grew up in Miami, and I'm pretty passionate about Florida history and, Tallahassee history as well. Been pretty active so far with the bicentennial this year, and then other things throughout the past. So I'm really excited about being on this commission.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Catherine Millar. I'm the State Archaeologist for Florida and the Bureau Chief of the Bureau of Archaeological Research.
Why don't we circle back to our director? Sorry.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Lowe.
She's the real boss.
And I am the Director of the Division of Historical Resources and Florida State Historic Preservation Officer.
I'll go. Hi, I'm Sarah Lico. I am an archaeologist by training, but Greece. And here at the division, I'm an operations manager, so budget and purchasing things.
John Grandage, I'm an Assistant Director over Construction and Museum Project Management, Outreach and Communications.
I'm Jeremy Heister. I coordinate the webinars and the historical market program.
Any other staff in the audience?
I'm Jillian Pratt, and I'm the general counsel, work for the department. Catherine was the legislative affairs director.
Judy, we also have, John Browning online. And
Yeah. Yes, I'm John Browning. I'm John Browning with the Goodman Company in Palm Beach. I'm from Palatka. I serve on the Florida Transportation Commission, the Highway Patrol Board, and some others. I've always been interested in history and growing up near St. Augustine, and so glad to be on the board.
and Michael Francis.
Warm greetings and welcome to the new commission members. Hello from Spain. I'm Michael Francis. I'm professor of history and the Huff Family Endowed Chair of Florida Studies at the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg campus. And I'm also a member of the National Register Review Board. Delighted to be here.
David Hoyt.
Hey, good morning. I'm David Hoyt. I'm a resident of Jacksonville, Florida, and have a new job actually since last time we met. So I'm now executive director for an organization called School Boards for Academic Excellence. So we organize school board members to try to promote academic excellence, and been on the commission since last year. Also co-founder of a classical charter school here in Jacksonville, and was on the founding governing board of that.
We momentarily had John Phelps, but he's not on anymore, and I believe that we are having Cliff Smith try to get on, but a 941 area code just joined.
Yes, I just joined. Thank you very much.
Good.
Okay, would you like to introduce yourself, Cliff?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Cliff Smith. I'm senior planner to historic preservation for the city of Sarasota. I'm on the National Review Board. I've served on many other boards, and as with historic preservation, I'm also chairman of the board for the First Street Credit Union. So we're thrilled to be here.
Thank you. All right, would the guests like to introduce themselves? Just your name, where you're from? Start over on the,
James Payne, Florida Fish and Wildlife, St. Lucie County.
John Arnold, Florida Fish and Wildlife, also St. Lucie County.
okay, thank you.
I'm Darrell Wolfgang, Deputy Secretary of Department of Management.
I'm Jeff Blosser, Department of Management Services.
Dan Barrow, DMS as well.
Louis Veston, Florida.
Melissa Wiley, Florida Tribal for Historic Preservation.
Thank you. All right, that's us. We're sticking to it. The first thing we need to do is, as a commission, we need to look over the agenda and decide if we want, I need a motion to adopt the agenda or modify it in any way. Is there a motion to adopt or adjust the agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 John gets in here. Okay. All opposed? We're good. Thank you. The agenda is adopted. Now, commissioners, you have received a copy of our minutes from the November 3rd meeting, and I hope you've taken a look at them. Are there any additions or corrections or deletions to the minutes? Hearing none, I also need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Frank. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Parker. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Hearing no opposition, it is unanimously approved. I just have a short, some comments. First of all, it's nice to see our new, commissioners and, welcome you to this fine commission. One of the things that we have, probably our primary goal, objective of the year is to, review special category grant applications and then rank them and then submit them to the legislature, for funding through the Department of State and the Secretary. We have done that. We have, I think, 37, that we ranked last year and to $9+ million. I hear that the money is only present in one side of our legislature, not in the other, but apparently that is how it's working this year. All the major requests are only funded on one side. That way they go to the joint committee, and that's where the business gets done. That's nothing unusual, but it is kind of weird that there are very few, budget items that are present only in both sides. That's the 2024 legislative session. So we'll deal with that. What we have done is what I will do, and I will ask you to do as commissioners, is to contact your connections in the legislature and the political world to request funding for it's $9.7 or so million. It spreads all over the state. I will send you a copy that the Florida Trust and Melissa of our grant booklet. I've got a copy of it here. I just downloaded it the other day, and it looks like this. This is what you can give to your legislators, and it's got a picture and a few bullets of all of the grant applications that we have approved, the scope, the demonstrated need, and a picture. So they're very helpful. So I think we need to crank up the noise a little bit on our grant applications, special category grants. I also will activate our coalition that we have of all statewide historic and archaeological societies and ask them to activate their membership, to meet with their legislators at home when they do visit, bring the book, talk about their support is needed for the projects that are in their districts. It's kind of a bottom-up campaign or approach that we've taken to getting special category grants funding after way too many years of zero. And so we've been funded for 3 years now, and I don't think there's a problem, but we need to make sure that there
You're
is
not hearing
one.
that, are you?
Right.
I'm trying to get it on my ear. I've got it
So
on my ear.
that's what we're gonna focus on in our, in the next, till the legislative session is over. So I ask you to do that. You can download this, or I'll make sure you get a copy. Would you like me to send it to you, commissioners?
Yes.
I will send it to you. All right? Right. It's just a PDF document.
Well, it's the Florida Trust who created the document, not that.
Absolutely. Florida Trust created it, right. Then we pass it around.
Do you have copies?
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. You'll get one in a little while. Good. So anyway, that's really the top of my list for our commission. We do a lot of other things, as you will hear, and we have other business, but this is one that is special. And I want to make sure that we take care of that business.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Madam Chair, it's yellow, it's not pink this year?
No, it's in yellow for some reason.
Is it?
It's not pink anymore. It's being called pink.
All right. You take yellow?
It's yellow. Right. I don't know why it's yellow, but let's
It's
pick
gold.
yellow, it's fine with me. It's fine with me, right. And now, Madam Director, would you like to, give us your thoughts?
Certainly. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. First, I will apologize for being crammed into this small room. Our auditorium is under construction right now. We're finally
It
getting
needs
the sound system.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, thank you.
Sound system. I know you've been, on the end of that where our sound system didn't work during the grant meeting. So hopefully we'll have that fixed and then work on this room too. I want to thank our new members for being here, and I think this is the first time we've had all 11 members in addition. They're on the rest are on the phone, but I think I counted 11, and
Yes.
everyone is here. So
Been a long
that's really exciting to have everyone's participation, and thank you to those of you who were able to come to the Union Bank opening last night. It was just a lovely reception. If you, didn't get to go, we're glad to give you a private tour and take you over there. If you're not familiar with the Union Bank, it's the little blue building right in front of the historic Capitol on Appalachia. And we just finished restorations of that, with our partner, FAMU Archives, Black Archives, and put in a lovely new exhibit there. So excited to staff that and assist them. It'll be open, I think, Thursday through Saturday, going forward. The public opening is this Saturday, so everyone will be able to attend. And I'll let staff handle most of the updates, but I did want to just speak to the budget. Yep. For a moment, I've got the side-by-side, and it does look like, 9.6, a little over 9.6, almost $9.7 million funded in the Senate, or not funded, recommended in the Senate. So yeah, it's not in the House bill. There is $1 million again this year, in the House and the Senate for the African American Abandoned Cemeteries grant. And I think Angie's going to give us a little bit of an update on the cemeteries program and where we are in that. We're trying to get the ones out for current year still, and have our cemetery council review those. We're working on appointments for the cemetery council now. And, that's about all I've got right now, unless you all have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's get to our business items, which is, we have a special guest, Melissa Wiley, and she's going to give us an update on the legislature and how it's looking from the inside. Let's see, why don't you come up to the podium, or drag the podium somewhere. And thank you and the Florida Trust for helping in all of this. It takes a village.
It does take a village. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to speak today. I appreciate it. My name is Melissa Wiley, and I'm the CEO and president of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. So we are the statewide nonprofit that works to protect the history and heritage of the state of Florida. So as a nonprofit, part of what we do that I think is really important is our advocacy work. So we can be a megaphone for those, our stakeholders throughout the state, and help to amplify their voice and have them be heard at our legislature here in Florida, and also we advocate at the national level as well. So given your role as stewards of Florida history and heritage, I would like to give an update on what we have been doing to advocate for preserving that history this legislative session. It's been a very busy session so far. We kicked it off in Miami with our Deco Week spoke as well, but we were the keynote speaker when we talked about our advocacy initiative. Miami is very engaged with the advocacy work that we're working on this session because there is some legislation that would be potentially harmful for them and other states, areas throughout the state. We had a great turnout for that, and then we came back to Tallahassee and we hosted our Legislative Advocacy Day where we took preservationists from around the state here to the Capitol, and we visited with lawmakers, and then we returned back to the Florida Trust and had a lovely reception there where we had lawmakers and staff come visit with us. So really great engagement. In all of these interactions, what we are working on doing is building the understanding and awareness of what historic preservation is very broadly, but also we are trying to crystallize who we are as not maybe historical police, but people who are working to build and support communities and want there to be economic development and want there to be growth, but we want to do that while protecting and preserving our history. So it's kind of an overarching thing that we always are trying to weave into our advocacy work. So with that said, we have sort of three main advocacy initiatives that we are focusing on this session. One is to fully fund the preservation grant. The second is to establish a Florida State Historic Tax Credit. And the third is working, to amend a bill that would be detrimental to preservation in the state of Florida, commonly called the Unsafe Structures Bill. I thought Rick should get that.
No comment.
So, the chair mentioned where we are with the historic preservation grant funding. We are optimistic about it. We did create a book that I have a copy of for everyone today, and I can get you additional copies as well. I have a bunch of them in the Florida Trust House. But pretty much, I think you did a great job where we are here. There are 36 projects and around a $9.6 million price tag. It has been included in the Senate budget, and we're optimistic about that. I think continuing to support every week we do our advocacy alerts, we're asking our folks, our shareholders, to continue their grassroots support, reach out to their lawmakers, let them know that this is an important tool for preservation of the state of Florida. So that is one of our focus. The second is establishing the Florida State Historic Tax Credit. This is the third year that we are working on passing this legislation. It would be a wonderful tool to incentivize preservation in the state of Florida. It would generate well-paying jobs and revive vacant or underused historic structures. We are one of only, I believe, 11 states that do not have a state historic tax credit, which would then be paired with the federal historic tax credit. The proposed credit would cover up to 20% of eligible costs for renovating a certified historic structure, and that would increase to 30% for those that are in a certified Main Street district. So that's the Main Street title. We really wanted to incentivize development in our Main Street district through this bill. Senate Bill 1166 is being sponsored by Senator Stigley and has been reported favorable at its first committee stop, which was the Commerce and Tourism Committee. It is next slated for the Finance and Tax Committee, but it has not been agended yet. In the House, Bill 1183 is sponsored by Representative Barnaby Webster and co-sponsored by Representatives Paula Stark and Michelle Salzman. We are looking to get that agended hopefully very soon in the Ways and Means Committee, which is its first stop. And when this is over, I don't know if you're able to answer questions or that's part of it, but I'm happy to answer questions anytime. The third focus for us is this Unsafe Structures Act. It's Senate Bill 1526. Its formal name is the Resiliency and Safe Structures Act, which would allow for demolition of buildings deemed unsafe in coastal areas without review, and would also allow there to be no restrictions placed on what could be built back after those demolitions. It was first heard January 21st in the Senate Community Affairs Committee. Our board president spoke at that committee and asked for amendments to exclusions to the language of the bill that would include National Register districts. And we had, I think, a lot of our board actually went and attended that and waved in opposition to the bill. So the second Senate thought that amendment was actually made, so now that there is in both houses language that would exempt both National Register individually listed and also districts from the bill. So that's good news, but there is still some refining of the language that we would like to include to have it better protect the historic places throughout the state. So as part of our advocacy with that, we've been working very closely with preservationists from around Florida, particularly the Miami Time Preservation League, who this would impact pretty strongly. And then we recently had a call with the ACHP to talk about a letter that they could send to the legislature here to express concerns sort of at that federal level to the impacts of that legislation here in Florida. So I should have mentioned also when we're talking about the tax credits, the National Trust is also hoping to support that with an advocacy alert to its members in the state, just saying this is great. Please help us support it. So those are our big three advocacy focuses for this session. That's almost halfway over. But I'm happy to answer questions if that's appropriate, or if not, we can talk after.
Did you have anything? No? Okay. Just a couple of things. Thank you for the report. Very, very helpful. On the tax credit, it's already changed the direction of a project in Palm Beach. The Paramount Theater, very historic theater, was going to go forward with a major inappropriate or unsympathetic addition. And instead of doing that, because of the opportunity to do the national plus the state tax credit, they've decided to not do that addition and focus their efforts on the tax credit. So I really, really hope it passes this year. I mean, if we've been waiting, how many years? 3 years. Third year, right? So third, come on, please, let's get.
the charm.
That would be great. On the ACHP letter, the draft came out yesterday. If we can please ask them to go ahead and send a formal letter before session is over.
Absolutely.
Like today or tomorrow, I think that would be wonderful, right? Because it's a very long, lengthy, detailed letter on how to address these issues, you know. I like to say, talking to Daniel Sorrell, but imagine if coastal Italy or coastal Spain were to pass a law like this, right? Everything within a half a mile of the coast, just demolish it, right? Why do we go to Europe? Because we want to go see history. The same thing in Florida. That law needs to be changed, or better yet, disappeared, you know? And in terms of the resiliency part, on the flood, on ways of treating buildings with flood vents and waterproofing, we have a really good case study now. We're doing the Everglades Bank, where the original intent by the owners was to raise it 9 feet, and we convinced them not to raise it, to keep it at 3 feet, and we've been adding flood vents in the attic, in the underneath and also through the building with waterproofing. So there are new techniques now available. You don't have to go crazy and raise buildings 5, 6, 8 feet and then create a horrible streetscape, right? Because you have this variation on finished floors. There are other ways of treating buildings. Hopefully that building will be finished next year and it'll be a good case study for other communities and to show these legislators from Fort Myers and Hialeah that you don't need to do this to historic structures. There's many other ways of dealing with that. So thank you for all the hard work that you've been doing, Melissa, and the board too, and visiting the legislators, you know, and just 100% of our support.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Madam Chair? Yes, please. Thank you for everything you're doing because, you know, even though I'm now in Gainesville and we don't really have coastal properties, the trend for some of these bills is to get their foot in the door and then it encroaches and encroaches and becomes harder to defend against this kind of stuff. And I wanted to impress on my fellow commissioners, please, if you don't know, if you have not read yourself, it's Senate Bill 1526, and the matching bill is House Bill 1647. Florida Trust has a great, one-sheeter on this. Senate Bill 1526. It's phenomenally disastrous. I don't think I can say that enough. I mean, Florida Trust has multiple things they're trying to advocate for, but this is something that is just unbelievable. And when you are proposing policy that is statewide and all-inclusive without even knowing the numbers of buildings it affects, without knowing the consequences, without knowing what will happen or what that would look like if everything that bill allowed happened, then that's bad policy. Straight up bad policy. They are pushing this through so fast. They tried to push it through last year and it was defeated in its entirety. I think it should be defeated in its entirety again. It's great that we were able to at least get national registered districts as part of what's exempted, but do you know how many historic resources we have in the state that aren't national registered?
That's a great point.
It doesn't even include exemptions for local register. And so many of our communities have things designated in a local district or on a local list of individual sites, but getting national register is very time-consuming, very expensive, and very lengthy process. So not everything that's designated is also on the national register. This would allow the demolition of these structures regardless of what a municipality has determined should be protected. That's the scary part. It totally undermines the local municipalities' effort to enact historic districts, to create historic districts and historic sites. And it just says, well, we don't care what the city has determined. These can all be demolished because they're in a floodplain. That's a lot of historic structures, and not just Miami or St. Augustine or St. Pete or whatever. Think about all the smaller communities that are along the Florida coastline that have tremendous history. Our fishing communities and our maritime communities and our underwater archaeology communities. It's just unbelievable. So even though we are inland, but I have definitely had the City of Gainesville's legislative team. They are well aware of this. They've been fighting this on our behalf. And my legislative person for the city even came back from visiting the legislators when City of Gainesville came up here, and he was like, I heard, shoot, he didn't even know this was going on. And then he said, I heard, well, they were gonna try and take this inland in future versions.
Yeah.
He's like, so now we are definitely interested in this. So, the committees these have already passed in some committee, in their first
They
step.
passed 2 in the Senate and 1 in the House.
So the next set of committees, so where, if you want to help, if this is concerning to you, what do? You find out what committee this goes to next, and you send a letter of concern to those people on that committee, even though they may not be your particular legislator. Also, your own legislator, because they're supposed to be like helping their constituents, and if that's a very big concern, your own legislator, but definitely reach out to the people sitting on those committees, because.
Oh, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to. I was just going to say that if you would like to be added to our advocacy alerts every week, we would have that kind of actionable language and the links to those chairs page, so you could go to each of the individual members of the committee and reach out to them. So if you have not been getting those from the Florida Trust, if you want to give me your card, or just maybe during break, come talk to me, I can write your email down and we'll add you.
It's really helpful.
The email blast that the Florida Trust has been doing has been extremely helpful, because it's something I can just forward it on to people, and it does kind of give you the step-by-step breakdown of what to do, but this is in my opinion, policy that's enacted without really knowing consequences is bad policy.
And I don't want to take too much time, Madam Chair, but I would
This is
like,
important,
This is very
don't worry.
I would like to say in response to everything you said, I agree with, but also I have heard from sitting in on these committee meetings, kind of where I started with saying our kind of brand of what historic preservation is. I think there's a real opportunity for us to help educate about the value of locally listed historic register properties and why that might not be on the National Register, because I think a lot of times there is a disconnect with lawmakers. They think the National Register is the be-all, end-all, and, there's reasons that you might think that. But if we could explain and demonstrate the value of our locally listed historic resources, I think that might potentially help. So just any way that we can better communicate all of our stakeholders about what historic preservation is. And to that point, even though it's not advocacy related, we did put together a historic preservation toolkit that we can do workshops around the state and talk about different components of kind of hands-on preservation. And I, I brought a copy of that as well, if anybody would like to see it during the break. There is an advocacy section.
No, it's fabulous, thank you. But absolutely, it is a very big misconception among most lay people and a lot of the lawmakers. Most people don't know that the National Register listing does not prevent demolition.
Oh, right.
They don't know that. It sounds so important and so big because it's super honorary. It is, but it does not prevent any demolition. That protection comes from the local designation, the local level. And if this bill is going to just totally allow demolition regardless of that protection at the local level, what you're doing is undermining everybody's preservation ordinances.
Well, that's what they want to do.
This is another example of state government usurping the rights of local government.
Right.
Home rule is disappearing in this state. This is a horrible condition. I've spoken to Sarah Bronin at the ACHP up in Washington, D.C., and they have the right, by the way, through Congress to help states and local communities when these things are happening, and that's why they've written this letter. This is crazy. I'm a preservation architect. Having the national designation is just like a nice little award that you have on the wall, basically. I've seen historic buildings in my hometown modified and changed because that's all they had. They did not have local designation. So imagine now if this state law becomes a state law, it's going to be a disaster for Florida historic places along the coast of Florida. It really is. People are just, I know how people are, and developers and architects that are not trained in historic preservation. It's just going to be, you know what, the state law says I can tear it down, because it's got a little bit of flooding issues down here, or it's got a broken window, or whatever the case might be, and the building official will not be able to do anything because of this state law. you know, ruining local designation and local home rule. It's a really bad problem.
Any other questions?
Now that we've brought everybody way down.
I think we should end on a good note. I think it was.
But it's important, you know, I think it's just, thank you for being here and for telling us what you're doing. But, you know, I think it's important, especially because we have new members on this commission. This is one of our main goals and missions of this commission is to make sure that legislators understand what they do absolutely affects all of our communities in a very real and meaningful way as far as historic preservation goes.
Right, and while the state employees can't lobby, we certainly can.
That's right.
And, one of the things that I'll do is when I activate our, Historic Preservation Coalition, which is the 6 presidents of the state organizations, I'll put this on, I'll give them the scoop and say, this is extremely important too, that we need to keep this under, control and keep it on our list in addition to funding special category, grant applications. Yes, yes. And it snuck up on us last year, and, but this year, it is, business of eroding home rule and having state rule, this authoritarian swing that we're in the middle of in the country is right here in our face in this particular, bill. So we'll do what we can.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. We appreciate your
thank you.
update very much.
Thank you for allowing me to go on.
It's all right, you know, this is, you know, I would say, you know, half the people in the room learned about it in detail. And that's part of what we do too, is educate ourselves as commissioners and then radiate out from there, with our networks. Like, you know, Salzman is my representative, and, she likes historic, she's not on the committee, nor she does sponsor the, tax credit bill, but, she certainly has friends that are, on the, unsafe structures, group.
I wish we had like Florida Historic Commission letterhead, because that would make my letters to the commission, to the legislators much more impactful.
We
Is that
used
possible,
to
Madam
have
Director?
business cards.
We can ask,
We used
I
to have
don't know the
business
answer
cards.
to that, but I will find out.
Yeah.
I mean, in my,
Right.
We used to have business cards, so maybe they can.
when I write to them, I tell them I'm on the Florida Historical Commission, but.
But you can't prove it, it doesn't show.
There's no proof.
Right, right. That's a good idea, Kathleen, thank you. I'll follow up on that, and I know Alyssa will, yeah. All right, so, what time is it? It's, 15. Why don't we go through our legislative, our business items, and then we'll take a break. Does that sound good? Yes. All right. We need to hear from the Division of Management Services on the Space Monument.
We don't have a clicker.
Alyssa, why don't you, for the benefit of our new members, talk about our role in this process?
Alyssa or
You, Alyssa, Madam Director. Yes. Why are we here talking about space when we're really talking about historical space?
Sure, and actually, I might look to Kent a little bit to help me out with this, but there is a role that, you all have in reviewing monuments that are to be placed on the Capitol grounds, and now, the ones that will be across the street, your, input on those, but I think that may be part of your presentation. Good, I'll steal your thunder on that one. Thanks.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Kent Blosser, Department of Management Services. I'm the Community Engagement Liaison. Okay, so before we talk about the space monument, we're gonna talk about the legislation.
Sorry.
So, actually, this monument was established last year with passing of House Bill 1189. Now, this one's a little different than some of our previous monument memorial projects, where instead of presenting a design and placement, we're actually presenting a plan And that plan is actually due to the governor's office, Senate President and Speaker of the House of Representatives. And that plan is to speak to primarily things like locations and associated costs. So, let's go there. So, now we're familiar with the statutory requirements of us, including a contest-style solicitation and the formation of a selection committee, because we've used selection committee in the past. The committee, we decided, given the nature of the subject matter, we asked for 2 staff from Space Florida, 1 from the Department of Management Services, 1 from Department of State, but Division of Cultural Affairs, and an architect to kind of speak to design. So, now, even though I said earlier it's a plan, kind of to be as efficient as possible, we actually decided to go ahead and execute the solicitation for the art contest. So we opened our contest October 27th, and it ran through December 31st. We contacted about 4,500 to 5,000 artists, and that was done via press release, the CodaWorks art portal, and My Florida Marketplace. And we used CodaWorks in the past for our other memorial projects. In total, we received 36 qualifying design proposals. And the plan moving forward is to have our selection committee kind of do an independent preliminary review where they'll score the submissions to pretty much obtain a solid 5 to which then we'll go to public meeting to eventually select an award winner to present with the plan. That'll be done at the public meeting. We'll use ranked choice voting. So it'll be 4 rounds of voting, and then, and then, like I said earlier, it's due to those 3 entities by July 1. And so these are some of the submission requirements, just to make you all aware. We had 6 mandatory criteria that they had to adhere to. And there was a disclaimer in the call to artists that basically stated if they did not adhere to all 6, their submission would not be reviewed. As far as location goes, so to Alyssa's point earlier, this monument will be placed within the Memorial Park, which is an extension of the Capitol Complex Plaza. So, we don't have an exact location yet. This is the current rendering of the design moving forward for the park. I don't have, intimate details as far as like a completion date, but construction is progressing nicely, and I'd be happy to follow up and provide that information when I get it.
How do pedestrians get to that site?
There is a crosswalk that goes from South Calhoun over to the park from the Union Bank side. There's parking along East Pensacola Street, and then I believe it might be Jefferson, which is 1 block up. There is a crosswalk that goes across. So those would be the primary measures.
Because the site doesn't really address people walking across the parkway on the south corner.
Correct. Now I will just from what I've learned, that would actually be a Department of Transportation thing, because Monroe, I believe DOT manages Monroe Street, so they would have to sign off on it.
But you control the site plan, right? I mean,
as far as what's in the park, yes.
So a connection to that corner would be a nice thing for pedestrians to try to get there.
I agree.
If they're brave enough to cross those 2 streets to come to that site.
Is that a walkway? Almost to the corner, but not quite.
Where? Up here?
No, underneath the first tree. Is that a walkway? No, go up.
Above Appalachia,
There.
right there.
Right there.
Oh.
No, go up a little bit. Right.
Like right here?
No, down, right there.
Okay, all right, very good.
Very weak.
It's a proposed walkway on the park itself, yes.
Madam Chair, if I could, there's a crosswalk here, so a little further down, like off the map across, like.
On the south side.
From like the Capitol to the Union Bank side, and then you have to cross again, there's another crosswalk across Appalachia.
Calhoun Street.
point I'm trying to make is that you've addressed automobile access, but you haven't addressed pedestrian access to the site plan. So if your site planners could take that into consideration.
Yeah, I'll bring that back.
Because most people are gonna be walking around the bigger park on the west side. They might wanna, well, if they're brave enough, they might wanna try to cross the street and come to your site over here.
Yeah, I'll definitely take that back. So any other questions? I know I kind of went fast, apologize, nerds, but, any questions about the plan itself or, really any feedback, recommendations?
Will we get to see the site plans or no?
We'll probably be back when we have the design that we'll be presenting, yes, sir, but, I mean, even criteria, anything that you'd recommend, that's really what I'm here to collect today, like, do you have any recommendations as far as the plan goes, or how we, eventually end up with that award winner?
What was your 6 criteria for the design competition?
Brief letter of interest, the actual rendering itself. I know technically there's 7, but
okay.
I consider references part of the resume, sorry.
What's your timetable for, the, evaluation of the proposal?
So we were gonna provide the selection committee about a month to review all 36. And
start your round?
Exactly, and then we'll go ahead and schedule the public meeting to get it down to 1 after that.
And you figure by the summer or the fall?
My plan is soon, so I'd say for maybe, I know a session going on, maybe the month of March, and then get maybe first thing in April.
Good.
Yeah.
Any questions? Yes?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you can go in on, but, you know, this commission just went through this
Yeah.
process with a Holocaust memorial, and
That was painful.
it was painful, and it felt like we were brought in at the very, very last minute, and none of us liked the design.
Right.
So if we're not gonna be shown your 5 potentials until you get to the final design, it kind of feels like, why are we even reviewing this? Because we had no, like, we really had concerns in multiple variations about the Holocaust one. The materials, the way it was gonna project its feeling and that kind of thing. So, I don't know, I mean, is it possible for us to see your finalists and then give you some input as to what we think?
I'll have to follow up. The only thing that I worry about is that, those opinions would impact the selection committee, because ultimately it's their role to choose. Really, I'm here to collect feedback and any recommendations on.
But we can't give feedback if we don't.
Well, why don't we have you bring back to your people that the historical commission would like to be involved and provide you feedback on, let's say, in your, evaluation process of your proposal.
Okay.
Not at the very beginning, when you have just 36 staring at you, because we're not monument people, but we are cultural and historical people. And so maybe bring us in, and you said you're gonna have 3 rounds?
It'll be about 4.
Well, why don't you bring us in round 3? That's, maybe we could send that message.
Now,
I don't know how, but, it could be via email, Zoom, it could be via, remote, way. It doesn't coordinate. When's our next meeting? Is it 3 months?
Usually in May, I'm not sure, but usually May.
Yeah, it's probably too far away, so it probably would be remote.
And, just to let you know too, that those 4 rounds of voting, the ranked choice, those will all occur over our publicly noticed meeting, so, they'll all occur at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah.
at the same meeting, you go from 36 to 1?
Well, 36 to 5 with our independent preliminary review. And then during our notice meeting, they will actually go through, each committee member will, via ranked choice voting, rank their 5 from 1 through 5. And then through 4 separate rounds, we'll end up with an eventual winner.
I'm still trying to understand our actual role. No.
Understand they want our feedback.
On what?
And we would like to give our feedback before it's a done deal. right?
Yes,
Right.
please,
So-
avoid the Holocaust
Yeah.
again.
And so maybe, when you've narrowed it down to 5 and before your public meeting, why don't you bring us in and ask us if the commission would like to have some input?
Reviews it, okay.
Yeah,
I can check on that.
and that way the members of the selection committee can have our feedback as they deliberate and rank them, get down to 1.
That would be wonderful.
Good. And we can do it remote, you know, we do Zoom meetings and stuff all the time.
Okay, great.
And I think your contact should probably be who, Alyssa? Okay, you?
We can funnel that through, yeah,
Good.
and we can notice that meeting as well, like.
Oh, yeah.
last time.
Mhm. Good, thank you, Kim. I think that'll, be our feedback to you, really, about the process, so.
Gotcha, okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Frank.
I would just like to, echo Commissioner Gonzalez's statements about pedestrian access. I mean, Monroe and Appalachia are really intimidating streets for pedestrians naturally. So, you know, the design really needs to, you know, you don't want to create a dead park that nobody goes to because it's not inviting, you know, to walk to, or, you know, so we definitely.
And there's a great reason to go over there now, because the bank building that we went to yesterday had their grand opening. And it's congratulations, John, it's a beautiful project. You know, it's got a great potential for an outdoor courtyard space there on that corner, on the south corner. And now you have the north corner, but it's horrifying to try to get over there from the west side of downtown, right? That's very pedestrian friendly, all the way up and down Adams Street to the Capitol, to the museum. You know, so please, as you're doing these things, you know, I mean, you know, 4 or 5 parking spots, you know, come on, we're trying to make, Tallahassee should be an example of walkability for the rest of the state, you know?
Yeah, I'll definitely take that back, I will.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Do you intend to contact and work with DOT about pedestrian access? Is that part of your responsibility?
I myself don't know that, but I can follow up with their construction team and ask to see what that process will look like, yeah.
Yeah, so when you bring our input back to your people, say that we are concerned, and is there a plan for DOT to have, I don't know, walkway lights, you know, somebody wants to cross Monroe, they hit a button. When nobody wants to cross Monroe, then it's not a stoplight. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Yeah, sure.
Just in the interest of being very involved with the Union Bank, and thank you, Rick. From my perspective as staff, it would be interesting to see the Union Bank reflected on the site plan.
Yes.
So that we zoom out a little bit, and, kind of Commissioner Gonzalez's point, we actually worked with DOT in the bank project because we had to demo out a few sidewalk sections and regrade them because they had gotten pushed up by those large live oak trees that are actually visible there on the very bottom of your plan. So it's in the Department of State's interest to not only see the Union Bank commissioners on this plan, but also to contemplate broader pedestrian upgrades that may be possible. And thinking about the Union Bank as a historic resource, the old Capitol as a historic resource, this being kind of in the view of it and being now part of a kind of holistic, as plans develop in the area, that would be helpful, I think, for Department of State staff to help this be somewhere that could be welcoming for people if they are getting pushed across the street, and the Union Bank becomes somewhat of a de facto ancillary visitor center for this. So it's context there is important. Thank you.
And even, I guess you can answer this question, I mean, that park is not just the park you're seeing right there, that, the park, as was in the legislation last year, does include the parcel Union Bank is on, correct?
Yeah,
And all the way down to the Holland building?
Yeah, I believe the statute does say it goes all, it wraps around down to Gaines Street, and back around, yeah.
Yeah, so just wanted to point out, like, it is a larger, even larger area than this.
So DMS, DOT, and DOS could work together to do a park once thought, you know, which is what a lot of cities are doing now. Park in one location, and then go do whatever you have to do as a pedestrian. Go shopping, lunch, visit a museum. This corner has 2 great museums now, and a site that hopefully you want to activate. You don't want to just build this and have people drive by and see it, right? I mean, you want people to come and learn about the space program, right? I think that's the objective here. And
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal, make it
Florida,
pedestrian
right?
friendly. Thank you.
I'll definitely bring that back.
Well, I guess we gave some feedback, didn't we, Ken?
I appreciate it.
Well, we will speak up, and I know that, that's really what you want. And we were, we're disappointed about what happened in the Holocaust, memorial, and we don't want to be caught, again, and thank you for bringing it to us early before you have, made really any decisions. And, so I think we can help, and we can certainly offer our opinion. Okay, okay,
I
thank you,
appreciate
Ken.
it. Thank you.
You bet,
Thank
you
you all.
bet, you bet. All right.
Oh, by the way, that parking lot's existing right now. That's interesting.
Okay, we have a renaming request,
Okay.
from, FDEP on North Causeway Boat Ramp Park in Fort Pierce, St. Lucie County. Please come forward.
Fort Pierce.
Fort Pierce.
And you're actually Fish and Wildlife. It's the DEQ lead number on there.
Okay, sorry.
Wildlife.
4 agencies today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Investigator John Arnold. I'm an investigator with Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, and I thank y'all for the opportunity to appear in front of y'all today and speak on behalf of my fallen brother, Kyle Lee Patterson. My request for the renaming of the North Bridge Boat Ramp in Fort Pierce is in honor of Kyle. Kyle was a servant leader to the nth degree. He really understood what it meant to be a servant leader. Not only for us in the law enforcement community, but the citizenry of St. Lucie County. I'd be willing to bet that there's probably not a county in this state where somebody doesn't know and smile when they hear the name Kyle Patterson. He was that kind of man. Strong ties in the community. Love getting the youth involved in agriculture and with the 4-H, the Cattlemen's Association, even had specific, like you would typically see at a county fair, the cattle shows that the kids would participate and take a young calf and then raise it up to a certain degree and make sure that that calf was well taken care of and had the best presentation. Just, I mean, that was his joy, was to help these young folks. In addition to protecting the folks and the wildlife of our great state, Kyle had a passion for both boating under the influence and driving under the influence enforcement, which is odd because that's how he was taken out from us. Unfortunately, he was killed by a drunk driver on Highway 70. But he had a very big passion for that. He was very involved with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, which I'm sure we all support as well. He taught me, along with my friend James back there, they had a heavy hand in teaching me direct and brutal impacts of driving under the influence and boating under the influence. And I was very thankful to have teachers as these men to help me along in my career path. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I see y'all have a lot on your plates today, but I do wish to request your support in renaming this boat ramp in honor of Kyle Lee Patterson. To allow that boat ramp, anytime somebody launches a boat or goes and sits and has a picnic in the nice park, that it be a reminder of a terrific human being, a public servant who believed truly in his cause, and a servant leader that any of our kids should be able to look up to. Thank you. If you all have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer.
Is it possible to put up like a kiosk that kind of talks to people about, what happened?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I believe that would be something that would be easy to do with our local community. I don't believe that would be hard at all.
I mean, how tragic that he was involved in, DUI and both DUI or whatever.
Yes, sir.
Right? And that's how he passed away, huh? That's just very tragic.
Yes, sir.
That's a beautiful location too, by the way.
I love that idea.
I love that boat ramp. Specifically, that boat ramp was one that he worked a lot. He taught me a lot at that boat ramp, so it's rather fitting that park be named, and boat ramp be named after him.
Great idea.
Oddly, there's the bridge, I don't know if you can flash back to that broader, oh, there we go. This bridge right here is under reconstruction. They're building a new high-rise bridge to get rid of the old, drawbridge. So the park right now is in disarray due to the construction and due to some damage that was caused by hurricanes over the last couple of years. But the plan is, once that bridge is finished, then they're gonna completely gut that park, redo it, redo the boat ramps, make it nice and beautiful again like it was before all the damage was done. And we're hoping to have dedication once that is all finished.
I love the idea of the kiosk or a marker
Yes, ma'am.
or something that explains it, because to me, in most of these cases, like the renaming is just not enough.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, it's like, we really need to let people understand what the name is about and
Yes,
who
ma'am.
that person was. And I thank you for your service and thank you for your service, because it's just so not easy. You put your lives on the line for us all the time.
I appreciate that, ma'am.
Thank you.
Right, and as an archaeologist, I know Fish and Wildlife investigators, I know, like yourself, have really, gotten a lot of bad actors, who loot archaeological sites in our rivers in particular.
Yes, ma'am.
And I do appreciate that. We've come a long way from the bad old days.
Yes, ma'am.
Long way, yeah, and that's thanks to this department and education and, of your officers, and I know, it certainly was just a embarrassing problem.
Yes, ma'am.
And I appreciate that too, what's underwater is protected too, not
Yes,
just the
ma'am.
fish and the wildlife,
Absolutely, yes,
but the cultural resources, yeah.
absolutely.
But anyway, do we need a motion, or we would like to give a motion? Would someone like to, make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion, that we accept the renaming request, for Mr. Kyle Lee Patterson, who died in action, from the FDEP lease 4744, AKA North Causeway Boat Ramp Park in Fort Pierce, St. Lucie County.
Second.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm waiting for our online people.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Good, that's good, all right. So, it's unanimous, and you go with our blessing.
Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate y'all's time.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming, and thank you all.
Thanks for being here. Get home safe.
Thank you.
Now we need a break. Let's see, it is, 10:42. Let's come back at 11 o'clock. Take a 10-minute break. No, I said 11 o'clock. It's more, that's probably two problems.
Perfect, thank you so much.
David, my kids used to love going to the alligator farm when they were little, 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
And
You guys have been there for 130 years?
Yeah. Well, I have.
Well,
I would have to
call them. That's tremendous.
Hello, welcome back to the meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right, 11 o'clock, we had a nice break, and we do have, the real boss, our Secretary Byrd. Thank you for dropping by. And, we've been busy this morning, with, on historic business. We have, we got an update from Melissa Wiley, who is the CEO of the Florida Trust of the legislation. And we dealt with some renaming issues and the space monument that's going to be across the street in the Capitol. But thank you for coming. And would you like to put faces with names?
Sure, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
But we have some new people, so yeah, let's.
Well, that's right. Well, this is part. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Parker Destin, I'm happy, I own restaurants, operate restaurants in Northwest Florida. I'm a fairly recent appointee from Senator Pastel.
Wonderful, thank you.
Well, I'm Judy Benson. I've been chairman several times, twice, and I've been on the commission a long time, and it is my privilege to serve.
Kathleen Kaufman, currently with City of Gainesville. I have lived in Tallahassee twice, once because I worked with the Department of, the Division of Historical Resources, and once as Executive Director of the Florida Trust.
Hello, Rick Gonzalez again, REG Architects, and Charlie Chris put me on this board a while back. I've been here a long time.
David Drysdale, I feel like I've done this before. I'll run through it again. I'm from St. Augustine. I've got the Alligator Farm Zoological Park there.
I love that.
And I'm good. And I've been on the board of Flagler College and the Lightner Museum in St. Augustine for many years. So this is my first meeting, so I'm still learning.
Frank Turpin, we meet each other. It's a pleasure for me to be on this board and to help the commission in mission and the agency. Thank you.
Right, we have some people on, online on our webinar, and they might want to say a few words. Dr. Smith, Mr. Browning?
Oh, I know John.
Yeah, you know John, right?
John and I go way back.
Yeah.
It seems like, John might have dropped off.
That's all right.
Yeah, we have, David Hoyt and Michael Francis are online, and then I believe also, Dr. Smith calling from 941 area code.
Right, right. But anyway, that's us, and, we just would like to, number one, thank you for your support, especially of special category grant funding. And, we are alerting our statewide network, the Coalition of Historic Preservation, to talk, their members to talk to their legislators at home, as the session moves on.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you all for being here and doing this important work. And I know Judy, Kathleen, and Rick, you were at the opening of the Union Bank last night, which was, I think, very well received. It seemed like everybody really enjoyed it, and it looks phenomenal. So to my team, thank you for all that you did and all the people that are supportive. And I know that in the Tallahassee Democrat, it was on the front page, so that was great.
Right.
Yeah, great support. Yeah. Fall apart, right? I mean, wasn't it the lead stories?
That matters.
That's great. That matters. Yeah. So, wonderful, and we're messaging on it, so just, once again, thank you, because, we, at the Department of State, we preserve history, we tell history, we promote history for all Floridians, and I think that's really important, and we strive, bless you, strive to get that message out to everybody that, we're telling all the stories, so, just wanna.
Yeah, and we have so many new Floridians, 1,000 people a day is still hard to imagine. But they don't know usually very much about our history at all.
Right. Well, you know how much I love history and what y'all do. You have my full support, and certainly when you're talking to legislators and from your regions, you can tell them that you have the Secretary's support for all that they do. And I encourage them all the time to get out and see the sites, visit, because it just makes such a difference to get out and see it in person. So. We'll just keep doing our great work, and thank y'all for being willing to step up and serve.
Thank you very much.
Have a great rest of your meeting.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Shameless. I want Now we'll go to our reports. And we'll start with Dr. Millar on the Bureau of Archaeological Research.
Well, thank you very much. We have a lot going on right now in our bureau. One of the things I wanted to,
Yes, come up.
change it up.
We have more people here today.
Yeah, that's true.
We're used to all being in the same room.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you. Yeah, we have a lot going on in our bureau, our teeny bureau. We're a skeleton crew, but we have the monumentous task for some of our new commissioners of protecting, promoting, and identifying cultural resources across the state of Florida. In our bureau, we have an underwater archaeology program, a collections conservation program, and then also a public lands archaeology program, which focuses on state terrestrial lands. And our state waters, for archaeological purposes and cultural resource purposes, goes 9 miles out into the Gulf, 3 miles out into the Atlantic, and all navigable waterways are all considered state lands. And then we hold titles to any artifacts that are on state lands or in state waters, and so we have a wonderful collections conservation program that we're getting a new building because we're starting to run out of space, and with the support of the secretary and everybody, we're just so excited that that's coming into fruition. We do have an LBR that's out there, so I think in the Senate, that is to additional funding to complete the conservation labs in this new building. So we have the money to build the collections, but we don't have the full money to build the conservation lab, but so hopefully we'll see how that goes.
And that's in the Senate, but not in the House.
The Senate, but not in the House, right?
Well, so this one, right?
And then as state archaeologist, so I have 2 titles. I'm also the state archaeologist for Florida, and part of that role is to handle any human remains cases that are found across Florida, whether that's on private lands or public lands, that are greater than 75 years deceased. And so most of the time, what falls under my jurisdiction, and I'm a bioarchaeologist is my specialization. I specialize in osteology, actually, and so working out as state archaeologist, but I work very closely with the tribal nations and have very good partnerships with them to repatriate anything that's of Native American ancestry, and to work with them on the protection of burial sites across Florida. So actually, in that vein, another thing that we actually have that we put a legislative budgetary request in for is for a NAGPRA position, a career service NAGPRA position. For us, because so NAGPRA is the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. And that is a federal law that requires if you have any sort of collections that are funerary objects or of Native American ancestral remains in your collections and you receive any type of federal funding whatsoever, you have to comply with this law. You have to work broadly with federally recognized tribes to figure out final disposition of those remains and funerary objects and work with them. And new regulations have just passed starting January of 2024. They just did an amendment to that law. And we were one of the few agencies that were actually in full NAGPRA compliance in Florida, and which it says it's an army, right? But it was it's very rare. But now under these new laws, all of those collections have to be reassessed, and so what was originally in NAGPRA compliance is now out of NAGPRA compliance, and so we have to work. Which we already do work closely with the tribes on repatriating with this, but now it's going to be a task that is definitely in need of another individual to assist, because we are also in the unique position, because under Florida Statute 872, we also receive human remains actually on a regular basis. We're a repository for these ancestral remains and historic remains that have no other place to go, and we take that with a lot of pride and treat them with respect, and that we try and figure out the final best disposition for these remains, no matter what community that they came from. But because of that, we also get collections on a regular basis, which no other institution has that sort of situation. So this is basically a position that will always have job security. So it's very important, and the Seminole Tribe of Florida are very supportive of us getting this position as well. So.
May I ask Harry?
Yeah.
A quick question. The amendments, we were in compliance. Did they just expand the scope of what might be something that needs to be repatriated? Is that the reason that the
Yes.
collections now have to be reviewed?
So the collections have to be re-reviewed for, basically for affiliations. So they changed some of the ways that remains were deemed to be affiliated. There used to be something called, you can have culturally affiliated remains and culturally unidentifiable remains. And the tribes took a lot of umbrage to that, understandably, to that term. And so they've removed the category of culturally unidentifiable and turned it into a geographic ancestry and affiliation. And so all those remains have to be reassessed. And when you reassess that, you have to do that in consultation with the tribal group. And a lot of times what that ends up meaning is, in Florida, what's very interesting, so we have three, the Seminole Tribe of Florida, Miccosukee Tribe of Indians, and the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma have aboriginal land rights to the entire state of Florida. So even if you had remains that were considered culturally unidentifiable, we always had tribes that we could consult with in Florida. But that's unique. Actually, not every state is like that. Some other states, if you didn't have aboriginal land rights or a treaty or an act of Congress, had nobody to consult with. So it created this national problem. We didn't really have that in Florida as much, but where they would have these remains and you wouldn't be able to consult with anybody because of this category. So it's changed that. But another thing, actually, this leads into another project and task that we've taken on our hands and that I've spearheaded with the Seminole Tribe of Florida, was to create these regional burial areas throughout Florida in parks and state parks on state lands that are usually conservation lands that were never slated for development but already have in place. The rangers and the land managers have to do land management reviews where they have to check any archaeological sites that they have. So this wouldn't add a big burden to them because they already have to do annually check on any archaeological site that they have. But this would be the creation of a new area in an area that doesn't have an archaeological site or any cultural resources that would be for the burial grounds of Native American remains that cannot be put back from where they originally came from. So a lot of Native American groups, that's their desire and their wish, if remains and funerary objects are repatriated, is to have them reburied back in their original archaeological location. But a lot of times that's now a parking lot, or it's just not accessible, or it's eroded away into the Atlantic and you can't possibly rebury it back. So the creation of these was predominantly for state collections, and because we do have large legacy collections that we knew we were going to be reburying, and also because we receive remains on a regular basis, a lot of times they were inherited from a relative that may have passed away, and now their grandchildren and their children inherit their collections, and they find that grandfather had, some remains that he collected maybe in the 50s or 60s when it was much more kosher to do that at archaeological sites, but we don't know exactly where they're from. And so this would allow for reburial in regional areas across Florida where they would be protected. And it also helps the tribes because of this new NAGPRA legislation. They're getting a lot more remains coming to them from the Smithsonian and other institutions that are from Florida that also can't get reburied back to where they are. This also helps them as well in this quandary because a lot of them have death taboos that don't allow them to bring remains that weren't originally from the reservation onto reservation lands. So anyway, that's also comes into a bigger thing. And so the Seminole Tribe of Florida had a meeting with us and the secretary to promote a liaison and to foster and facilitate more the creation of these regional burial areas across Florida because in light of the new NAGPRA laws. And so we're hoping with this NAGPRA position that could also be a person that could help with that as well.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out that one is also in the Senate budget, but not in the House budget. That's the only position that it's really a priority.
Yeah, that would be great.
Hope it happens.
So the tribes are okay with the reburial sites?
Yes, they're very happy, and in fact, we had a TIPO-SHIPO meeting that I attended, and this is now going to be used as a template in other states, because it's kind of the first of its kind in the United States.
Wow.
To start
Yes,
this.
congrats.
Yeah, so it's been a very
Well,
successful.
like you said, with the new, NAGPRA, rules and regulations, the material is gonna come pouring in.
Exactly, and that's a big concern, right?
and I know we were in a long meeting, and I've already used my one question, but my wife did and the reason I even know anything about this is my lovely wife is, an archaeologist who did NACRA compliance with BLM out west. And it's very, very important to fund this, because the compliance side of it is so important, especially for the state and anybody who receives federal money, but, is there any way, because we're gonna get a cultural resource crime sort of update as well, the designation of the sites themselves, is there going to be some level of anonymity to where they'll end up in an effort to prevent perhaps looting?
Exactly, and that was also a request of the Seminole Tribe of Florida, is to not have any fanfare or really do any public outreach about it, and to kind of keep it quiet, just out of respect, because of the sensitive nature of it. And also, anytime there's burial sites, one of our biggest concerns is looting and of drawing attention to it. So we always try to keep those as quiet as possible. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Great.
And you're so incredible, like all the bureaus, of how much work you actually undertake. And I was just wondering, in your role as state archaeologist, beyond the new stuff you're about to take on, how many requests do you get, or how many cases do you normally see for the human remains find?
Oh, yeah. Well, this is another reason why asking for a position, because I have to wear many hats, and then our collections conservation supervisor, he wears many hats, and we're already kind of all spread thin of that. And so, and I'm having to also handle on the front end with, so 872 LF timelines, I've been getting, I think, over 130 cases, new cases a year.
Wow.
And not all of them end up being human. Some of them are faunal that they, I get asked by law enforcement and other investigators what they are, but there's still stuff I have to stop and attend to. And then some of these also might end up turning into phase 3 compliance work that may take years. So then that just counts as one case. So it's a lot. It's a lot on the front end and then on the back end, right? So that's one of my. But yeah, thank you so much. And so and bringing back to the collections conservation lab, so a lot of work is being done with wonderful architects that we have on board, and I think it's just going to be a fantastic facility that's going to have a really great public outreach component. It's going to have sort of that fishbowl look where you can actually see archaeologists at work and doing sorting of artifacts, and with the we'll also have a lobby that's going to have a lot of our artifacts on display as well. So I think it's just going to tie in really beautifully also with the mission, be distinct, but yet really play nicely with that. And actually right now, if anybody was going to come and we could do a collections tour, we're also having, there's a unit that's open that our resident mission archaeologist, Jerry Lee, is actually completing more of an excavation that we had started when we were actually doing some testing for this new building, and found a pretty exciting feature that's just right outside the collections building. So it actually is the perfect way to process artifacts. You have the collections building right there, and you just take the artifacts right there to be processed and curated. And so this will eventually go on display at Mission St. Louis. And we're going to have that portion of our archaeology month that's going on over there. In underwater, so we have some new exciting underwater discoveries this year. Found a new submerged site just last week in Lee County that we're going to see.
With the new boat?
That's not with the new boat, not yet. They're still getting that all onboarded, but and they have our beautiful 450 out there that's there to tow the new boat, so that's great. Thank you all for your support with all that over the years. We're going to be doing survey work of that and working closely with Lee County Sheriff's Office. And then we are also going to be doing, the Ichituckney has a pretty amazing Paleo Indian site. That's one of the few mastodon butchering sites in the world. And it's eroding out of the embankment, so we're working very closely with DEP to try and secure that, because that's pretty heavy flow there. And once it starts eroding, it's hard to stop that. So we're working with our team doing that. That always presents totally different issues when you're dealing with rivers versus oceans. but we're in our year 2 award of that grant, so that we got the boat from the NOAA grant. We had gotten federal funding to get a beautiful Parker boat and a 450 to tow it. And then this year, part of that is also to include a fiber cord, which is great because I wish I could show you a video of our poor archaeologists having to pound in by hand core samples. They're in much better shape than I am, but so they could do that. So hopefully that'll be part of this year's grant. And also this is part of also in our efforts of coordinating better with law enforcement and FWC. I wish they were still here to thank them again. Just their help has just been instrumental in cultural resource looting cases that I'll go over a bit of which actually somebody just pled guilty yesterday to actually that big county case that we were talking about. Just pled guilty yesterday for that.
Which county?
It was Fernando County.
Okay.
And then I have to go back in my notes, but yeah, that's for us to have training with them so they can help identify what underwater cultural resources look like and help with the protection efforts on that. So that's part of this grant. And also to look at prop wash deflection issues that are done sometimes when people are looking at archaeological sites. There's been one of the malpractices is using prop wash deflection to look at that site. That just blows holes and shipwrecks and various other things. This is going to be a formal investigation to look at the effects and potentially the permanent long-lasting damage of that. And so, yes, and so there's at least 3 or 4 cases that were actually went to restitution and were actually won through damage assessments and just it's just been ramping up. FWC law enforcement and local law enforcement in Alachua County and other places are actually using some of the statutes and contacting our office, and they're upping their own ordinances, local ordinances to mimic the state to protect cultural resources. So it's really been a very wonderful success story with our law enforcement coordination from our public lands archaeology program and arm training and working with that. And just really, really quickly, because I know it's going to save you a lot of time, but another thing that's going on is so our arm training programs, which is our archaeological resource management programs that are geared usually towards land managers, but also towards law enforcement and other people who are having to manage state land, is that we had gone virtual with that with COVID for a while, but now we're actually going back live because at request from those land managers and tailoring it more to those. So that just started again this month, and we're going to continue in that trend. Any other questions for me? Right now? Okay.
Very impressive. That's a lot. Now, I know Ruben Acosta is not in the room, so is there going to be a report by somebody else?
Yeah, I'll do it briefly.
Okay, Andy, thank you.
Don't feel like you're going on to.
Oh, okay.
We love to hear what your workload is and what you're up to.
I did ask Ruben, section head, for a quick update, so I could share anything that is going on with you all. So for the Bureau of Historic Preservation, Ruben is the Bureau Chief. He's on annual leave, well deserved. For the CLG program, there's been no new CLG communities, although they are accepting some applications and ordinance reviews for Orange Park and Crescent City recently, so those may be coming in the future. We still don't have a new CLG coordinator. We had actually selected a candidate, but then they, for family reasons, couldn't move here. But so we're still searching for that position. We're going to re-advertise if we haven't already. But we do plan, even so, to increase the annual trainings and roundtable meetings that we do for our CLGs throughout the year. So the goal this year, usually we do 5. The goal in the next year would be to do 9. So, and that would focus on board training amongst local staff because of local staff turnover, programmatic updates at the federal level, legislative changes, and other increased interest in mid-century modern resources and newly aged resource types. So look for those in your local area. Like Kathleen, I'm not sure what cities they targeted or even if they have them, but those will be happening over the next year. And regarding the federal tax credit program, since the last meeting,
we have hired and begun training a new tax credit coordinator, to just help with the review of those. I believe that was an internal move, of someone who already works here and moved into that position. And, we have submitted since the last meeting, to Park Service, reviewed and submitted 2 Part 1, tax credit applications, 1 Part 2, and 2 Part 3. So that program is moving along, as usual. And for National Register, some of, our National Review Board, some of our commission members were there yesterday, but I'll just give a brief update since the last meeting. We do have a new National Register, staff reviewer that will be starting February 19th. So that will, I think, get that section up to full staff. Since the last meeting, 4 nominations were submitted to Park Service that were returned to us, 2 of which have been listed, Church of God by Faith in Gainesville, Grover Park Historic District, and 5 new nominations, of which 3 have been listed, were submitted to Park Service. And also since the last, well, let me see, not used to giving this report, to make sure I read that correctly, they resubmitted 4 that had been returned, sorry. And then 5 new nominations were submitted since the last meeting, 3 of which have been listed, including Hillman Pratt Funeral Home in Jacksonville, Gilchrist County Jail in Trenton, and St. Mary's Catholic Church near Bunnell. And then for Main Street, what Kathy wanted me to share, our Main Street coordinator, Kathy Beck, wanted to share that Palatka had reorganized as a Main Street. I think they had been inactive for a little while, but they've come back online. And for the Florida Master Site File, they are focusing right now on getting staffed up, and they've recently hired 2 new staff members. Good. So the site file is getting back up to full staff as well. So that's what I have to share for BHP. I can't really answer questions, but maybe if you do, someone can.
Well, thank you for being the messenger.
Yes, correct. And I'm next on the agenda.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I don't know if you were gonna give an update on the architect. I know Rich heard
Yes,
yesterday, and I
please.
shared with him, but
Yeah.
you can tell him where we are on that.
We have re-advertised. I believe that was shared with the review board, National Register Review Board. We did have we interviewed 1 person who applied, and we're at the point of making an offer, and they withdrew. They would have had to move here, and they decided they couldn't do that. We did that in the fall. So now we've re-advertised, and that was just released this week, actually yesterday, I believe. So what we did was change the salary range from not a range. From previously it had been $75,000 to $80,000, and now we're offering $80,000 to see if we get more candidates. And we also changed the licensing requirement to not require a Florida license currently, but that you could be licensed in another state or have 2 years of architectural experience in Florida to be able to apply. And if you were selected, you would need to become licensed in Florida within a year of hire. So hopefully, we'll see if we get some additional bites on that. If not, I think as Alyssa said yesterday, we probably have to go back and review, see if we can increase the salary.
From our last effort before we go to that extent.
So to our new board members, we've been without an architect for over 3 years, which is creating difficulties for the staff. And I'm warning you, to get someone from out of the state to get a license here is very difficult. So I say, and what are you gonna do, for example, if they can't get the license after a year? You're gonna fire the
Well, we
person?
had, as Alyssa pointed out yesterday too, I think we did that in a previous architect hired, one of our previous preservation architects, and it did work out, so.
I mean, it took him a little longer than a year to get it, and I think that was okay. We were seeing progress all along the way. He was actually moving in that direction.
All
And
right.
I think as long as we're seeing someone move that way, and they're passing their kind of forward exams,
Yeah, and,
okay.
yeah.
And I know there's a cost too, but, as I said, this is sort of our last hope that maybe we'll find someone who works in another SHPO's office, you know, or someone who has recently graduated that's in another state.
And the thing about Florida license, I was on that board for 10 years. a lot of other states' licensing requirements are a lot softer than New York, California, Texas, and Florida. So when you say somebody from from Alabama, licensed in Alabama, comes to Florida, they might not qualify. They might not have the requirements to get a reciprocal license. So then what? Do they go to FAMU to get another degree, or?
Have to retest correctly?
No, it's not that easy. No, it's not that easy.
Okay.
It's very complicated. I'm just letting you know, it's just frustrating. I really think you need to start thinking about a plan B, and getting a consulting architect, of which there are many good ones here in Tallahassee, okay? So they're in town to help you, so we don't go through another round of grants in September without a state architect. So I would please hope that you would consider a plan B, because we've been at this for 3.5 years.
I think the plan B is increasing the salary, and that's my hope,
Okay.
and as I
hope
said,
you're
this is
right.
my last justification to be able to do that, because that's not my ultimate decision. I have some concerns about having someone from the outside.
Okay.
Some is cost, some is, that there's a limited number of people that do this type of work, and they can't review their own
No, they'd have to have a,
things. They might have to have 2 or 3 people on call, but to me, it really complicates things if we start.
I feel like your salary is finally
It's getting close to where it needs to be, but it could be a little bit better.
No, of course it could be better, but it's certainly better than what it was.
Oh, by far.
I'm hopeful you at least get some applicants.
Well, we talked yesterday too about, your advertising, and I wanted to ask, as you probably know, Angie, have, the sources of young professionals, how to get to young professionals, oftentimes is through their former professors. And as every professor wants their students, graduates, to get a good job. And, after they do their 2 years of apprentice work, is it 2, Rick? 3 years, after they get done with apprentices, their apprenticeship, then they really are looking for something, they would be eligible to work here. And, as a former professor who trained and graduated graduate students, people are always calling me, who do I have ready? Not just newly graduated, but who do I know that has a couple years under their belt that will be good for a responsible position? So this is a long-winded way of saying, it might be productive for you to have someone take the time to look at the schools of architecture in the state of Florida, call the chair or the head secretary, and find out who to contact, what professor, and to actually call them or send them a letter, or make a list of those people, send them a personalized letter, for, explaining this position and the salary and the benefit package, which is what really is a big plus for states. So I was thinking that, if it were me, and I were on this hot seat, and I had Rick Gonzalez all over me for the right reasons, that that's something that I would explore.
Yeah, we generally do have, because what we do here is so specialized, we generally do, when we have hard-to-fill positions, reach out to the programs in the state and local. So we will do that as well, and also share it with the National Conference of SHPOs and other listservs like that.
And there's probably a state organization for architects that might,
UVA.
And we reached out to them before.
Yeah,
and get a flyer.
We've also reached out directly to people that were practicing for the state and other agencies, like we've really been trying our hardest.
I went back and looked up, but the other thing.
Don't poach one.
I directly contacted people that worked in other agencies.
I've done that before, man, poach away.
Actually, how we got the one applicant that we
Yeah.
almost, but we did put this open until filled this time, which
That's
is
good.
probably what we should have done before, instead of trying to have
That's
it
good.
open. So we're just gonna leave it out.
Yeah, because, so much of our, historic preservation is architectural. And I understand that, and it's, you just got to have, you really gotta have somebody that's credentialed to do that. I know everybody is doing the best they can, I know that, but anyway, so that's my 2 cents.
We've had the question, can you hire somebody that has experience and, a degree, and in a situation where, unless they're licensed, I mean, they're not technically signing, well, they could actually help us by signing off on small projects at the division, so that's another plus. But just, you know, if Rick calls, and Rick is a professional, he wants to be able to talk to a professional,
Yeah.
licensed.
Right. Right.
Hopefully I'll have a better report.
Well, we're all doing our part, you know, and, I know Carter Keenan over in Pensacola, and I'll buttonhole him next time I see him.
I don't think so.
Not Carter, but you might know a young.
You don't think so? Triple the salary, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right.
The School of Architectures have job centers too, where you can
Okay.
send it, and then they'll
We'll
send
look
it,
at that.
blast to their, current graduates and anybody that's involved with the school,
Okay.
you know.
My question is, what about the job requires you to live logistically or realistically, practically? What makes it that that person has to live in Tallahassee? It seems to be an impediment, given, you know.
Coordination with all the work in the office.
Yeah.
And all the
That
cases.
applicant, it is a department requirement. We don't allow telework unless there's specific medical or some other.
Back when there was an architect here, I used to love to come to meetings and bring my plans and show them, you know, progress and get their input. So, they have to be here. They really do.
And our architects, and really all our sections upstairs in BHP and BAR, they work really closely together, so, you know, I understand the question, but it is a benefit to be here, and then also we have the departmental requirements about it as well, so.
Gotcha, understood, thanks.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thanks.
If you want any more input, we probably have more.
Oh, I'm sure, well, I know Rick does, so.
Yeah.
And then, I guess, I can just move into the next agenda item. Grant program update, which is actually a little broader, so maybe in the future it won't just be grant focused, but, we've already talked about the budget, so I won't belabor that, but the Senate does have full funding for the list, special category list. The House doesn't, so hopefully that will come together. And I believe that's what happened last year too, that one of the houses, or one of the bodies had full funding and the other one didn't, but then we ended up getting full funding. So fingers crossed, and with all the help of the coalition and, all the work that you all are doing, hopefully that will happen. Both houses do have full funding currently in, for small matching. So our small matching grant program, we do have a $1.5 million recurring line item for that, so we always, include in our LDR the additional to fund the full list above the $1.5 million, and they both do have that included in their budget. So hopefully that will stay, and usually they do fully fund small matching. We also, as Alyssa mentioned, still on grants in the budget, do have a line item in for another additional $1 million appropriation for our new program, the Abandoned African American Cemeteries Grant. And as Alyssa mentioned, we did get an appropriation in the current year, fiscal '24, for that, and we've accepted applications, but we don't have a council yet appointed to review them. Hopefully that will happen, to review and rank the applications. Hopefully that will happen within the next month or, you know, and we can get those out. And we also have requested, so hopefully we do get that, revert and reappropriate any funds that weren't used in current year, so those projects can continue, because obviously we're really far into the current fiscal year.
How much was the original appropriation? I forgot.
$1 million. For the cemetery grant, right, it was $1 million in fiscal '24, and they put another $1 million in this year. So what we want to do with this program is treat it just like, and run it just like our other grant programs. We accept applications for our new members, for our small matching and special category. And now the cemetery program, the grant cycle opens every April 1st and closes June 1st. So when we open this April, we will be accepting new applications for all three of those programs to be reviewed and ranked and put in our LDR for fiscal '26. So that's sort of the way that the program normally runs.
Got to mainstream it.
Yeah, but because this program's new, we already have an appropriation. They're wanting to fund it, so we're trying to get the money out. We just need to get those applications reviewed and ranked, for the current year appropriation. I'll come back to the cemetery program towards the, at the end. We're also, I talked about this at our last meeting, maybe our last couple of meetings. We're working on the rule updates. Those are in rule development right now. We are including all of the changes that were proposed by our grant rule subcommittee last fall and accepted by, so that's increasing the award amount for special categories to $1 million, changing the criteria. So that's all happening right now in rule process and development. And we've also, Katie wanted me to point out that we discussed this previously as well, some tweaks to the archaeological project. So we are requiring at the time of application a full research design that will be reviewed and approved by staff at Bureau of Archaeological Research. So right now, we sometimes get research designs and sometimes don't, so now we're requiring it. And if it's not approved, then it would be an ineligible by the division at the time of application, then it wouldn't be eligible for funding. So hopefully that will make some of the archaeological projects like consistent. And on the front end, BAR will have a chance to review them before they get a permit application after it's funded.
Right, because that was some of the issues that we were running into is, if they may have gotten funded and then it turns out they don't meet the criteria to actually get a 1A32 permit. So meanwhile, the state has given them money, and then meanwhile, the state's also telling them they can't get a permit. So to avoid issues like that, and also we work very closely with land managers, and sometimes there's environmental reasons. They haven't reached out to the land managers before these grant applications. Environmental reasons that the land manager would not want an excavation happening there. The same thing if they receive federal funds to make sure that consultation is being done properly with the tribe, especially if there's anywhere near a burial site or something like that. So things like that, that we can flesh out on the front end and to help, with the process.
Yeah. Just a reminder that our grant cycle, I'd already said this, opens April 1st and closes June 1st. And for our new members, you will be reviewing those applications after staff reviews them, and any ineligible ones will be taken out. But you will review eligible applications, and the date is usually the last week of September. So the dates this year for that public meeting are September 25th and 26th, which we talked about at the last meeting if you weren't there, or don't have it down. So that's a Wednesday and a Thursday. And we don't know exactly how long the meeting will take because we don't know how many applications we're going to receive yet. But the last few years, it's taken all of the first day and maybe the morning of the second day. But for instance, last year we finished on the first day, but we stayed a little later because the commission wanted to finish up because we were really close. So we always allot 2 days, but it probably won't take the entire school days, but it could take a day and a half.
Last year we got,
Last year it was about 40 applications.
We have 36 this year?
That are that you ranked, that didn't, 36 move forward for funding.
no, but we received 40 applications?
Yes, well,
We don't know.
we received more than that last year, but once it made it to you with ineligible taken out, I think it was around 40 to 45 that you reviewed at the meeting. And then
Which was very low compared to previous years.
And I think that is a credit, yeah, your funding, it was full funding the last couple of years.
Okay, they're doing something right. That's
Yeah.
She's the hopper.
Yeah.
Okay, state tax credits, check. Grants, check.
Yeah, so,
SB 1526.
yeah,
Good.
so, but, we've had full funding for the last 2 years, but prior to that, because we hadn't had full funding for a while, we were getting about 80 applications. But the last couple of years, we only had in the 40s. So that's a good benefit as well, the full funding. And then lastly, just to update you briefly on our new historic cemeteries program that was created by the legislature last year. It was House Bill 49, but it's now in statute and part of Chapter 267, which is our governing statute. We have hired a supervisor. She started at the end of November, like right after Thanksgiving. Her name is Patty Myers, Patricia Myers. She's an archaeologist by training. She's worked with FPAN. She's also been museum director at one point. And she's very passionate about cemeteries.
Wonderful.
She's been really great. She's, like I said, she started at the end of, November, and she's really hit the ground running. She's like already taking inquiries from the public and other agencies about cemetery questions, because we get those, you know, not infrequently before we have this program, but now that we have this program, we can actually reach out and help people. So we don't have jurisdiction over historic cemeteries, but what we can do is help facilitate when people have questions or issues that come up. What are the resources that we have that already have in the division that can be useful to you, and also what other partners and stakeholders around the state can we connect you with? So that's part of what that cemetery program is going to do, but it's also going to help make sure that cemeteries get recorded and put in the site file, are taken into account, you know, in any decisions around the state, to the extent that we can help, you know, facilitate that with other agencies, local communities. So Patty's really been reaching out to develop already to the extent that she can. And we've just, the legislature funded 3 positions, supervisor and 2 staff people. And just this week, we released the advertisement to have to solicit applications for the staff positions. So hopefully.
What are those positions called, do you know?
They're called historic preservationists, so they don't say it's, because that's sort of our
Is that the one that's on preserveness?
Probably.
It just came out yesterday, or, you know, last week.
I think it's
came out.
one advertisement for
Oh, because
Yes.
we have some people in our community that are like
We can share the advertisement.
cemetery
Yeah.
people. Yes.
It's
the chairman of the academic department that do historic preservation, boy, they post them right.
We've already got, it posted last week, and we've already got 9 applications.
Great.
I don't know if they're, you know, I can't speak to the quality, but there's been interest, even from out of state. She's gotten some calls about it, and it has been shared, you know, beyond, but we can share it. Kathleen, I can send it to you, if you know people. But yeah, it's 1 advertisement to fill both. And there's a salary range, because we were given a set amount of money from the legislature for those positions, and what we did was advertise, 1 advertisement to fill both, hopefully with a range. So if one applicant has, more qualifications and experience, maybe they could be paid a little higher, or, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
What's the range, Angie?
40 to 48. Our total budget for those 2 positions, just for the salary rate is $90,000. And then on top of that, benefits, we did get some, funding for the benefits above 45.
And the supervisor, there's a range for that one too?
No, she's at, that one was at 55. So, which, I wish we could pay them all more, but.
Very lucky to get her.
Yeah,
She's very passionate about
she was kind of like when we read her application, we're like, this is like a unicorn application.
What's her last name?
Myers.
Myers.
She's got a lot of experience just in Florida. She has worked in CRM and things like that as well, so.
If you recall the grant that that SPN had for the Heritage Treasury Scout, she was the one they hired, and they kind of. Oh, that headed that program. Finished all that up.
Yeah, they hired her to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, and that's Flagler hired her for that, that was Steve Flagler. So anyway, more to come on the Historic Cemeteries program. Like, as we just build it out, it still has its new beginning stages, but you'll hear more and more, hopefully, great news about that program. Any other questions?
I know she's not, a section head, section person to give the updates, but would it be possible at the next meeting just to have her introduced to us?
Oh, she couldn't come, today she's actually at the, FPAN CRISP conference, this week, so she was traveling today for that, but yeah, for
The
sure.
one in Gainesville?
Yes, it's in
Yeah.
Gainesville. She's currently, she's probably driving
I'm leaving
to
here
Gainesville right
and
now.
going back home to
Yeah.
that,
We
yeah.
didn't have that date when we scheduled.
Yeah. But for sure, she can come to future meetings.
And is it right that one of those other positions is gonna be dedicated to African American cemeteries, or is that gonna be one of their focuses, or is that gonna be across both of them?
Well, the program itself is for historic cemeteries, so there's not, but the grant program that we've talked about is for abandoned African American cemeteries program. So I don't, at this point, I don't think one specifically will be focused on African American. I think they're shared responsibilities, but that could be something that develops over time if we see that's necessary as the program is built out.
I just know that was, that was a recommendation from the task force, but I didn't know if that actually came to fruition.
Yeah.
We put it in as a preference, we
Okay.
put it in as a requirement, but, yeah.
Okay. Well, I have some news. Downtown Pensacola, they just found an unmarked cemetery in one of our city parks that was a African-American cemetery in the late 1800s for like 5 to 6 years. And they did, the city archaeologists did the right thing. They did they found some bones a couple of years ago, accidentally under the basement of a building. And, at any rate, the results were just made public yesterday, that they found 45 graves, and they only surveyed half the park. It's a big park, like, I don't know, 5 acres, 4 acres. They're gonna do the rest, but they, were supposedly removed when the city was replatted, that part of the city. So, anyway, Pensacola, I'm very happy to say, is doing it right.
Have they recorded it in the master plan file?
I would think Adrian and Greg.
Oh, yeah.
They did, because actually, when they first found those remains, I was
They-
working with
I know,
Will and Elizabeth and everybody, so I know that.
And so anyway, I know the mayor and I know a lot of people in town, but the thing that is impressive to me about it is that everything was done the right way, with the right process, with the right people doing the right thing, sharing with the public, having a input committee that is diverse, people who could have been buried there, minorities in particular, and so, at any rate,
Something should be
Working
written
well.
about that.
Well,
So
there
that
will
they
be.
can share that with other cities, like, here's how to do it the right way.
And that's sort of the goal of this program is to, so Pensacola is lucky, they have the resources to do that, but some other communities might not.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
They could reach out to us and we could say, well, here's a best practice, or put you in touch with another community that's dealt with this.
Practice sheet.
Right.
So that's all something that will be developed as part of the program. Again, we don't have jurisdiction over historic cemeteries, but we can help facilitate protection and, you know, with all stakeholders throughout the state, from, you know, just private individuals to state agencies. So.
Yeah, so there are unmarked cemeteries everywhere, but this is right in the public eye, and so it's doing a lot of education just by the publicity and the way they're doing it. Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you. All right, so that's the end of our committee report, and so.
No.
we have one more.
You got me. They're done.
John, I'm sorry.
Instruction
My
update.
glasses broke this morning. You did. Yeah.
I'll talk quickly.
No,
I'm
you
sure
don't
y'all
have to
are
talk,
hungry.
but you just take your time. We're good.
I learned long ago to not stand in between people and lunch. When you were teaching like the 11:15 class and you could just,
I know.
angst and the grumbling. Rick, last time you asked me to put together some photos, so I have a presentation, some slides.
Good.
If you'll humor me a little bit. And I wanted to actually start out, as Jeremy's getting this up, one of our major outreach programs around the state is the Historical Marker Program.
Yeah.
And so in addition to running all of these public meetings, Jeremy is the Historical Marker Coordinator. And so he is doing a tremendous job with that program. We had that position vacant for quite a while and the applications built up. And not only has Jeremy gotten a lot of markers approved by the Marker Council, but also begin to implement things to improve the process, including reaching out to the SIPO offices when we write about things that cross into that area. And so I think we're taking a program, over 1,200 markers. So the most visible thing that comes out of Department of State may be these markers. And so I'm really happy that Jeremy's able to handle all of our meetings and all of the marker business. So thank you, Jeremy. So it's kind of a behind-the-scenes thing, but it's super important for our outreach, so thank you. So I got some slides, and we'll see if we might have to minimize the folks there on the screen, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Oh, they're over here? They're over there. All right, let's see. Sorry, I'm going to hide them. Oh, I have that kind of power. So first off, construction. So just for the new commissioners, so I have an interesting job here. I oversee construction management in Division of Historical Resources, and we've been extremely lucky to get a lot of funding the last couple of years. we've relied for a long time on a recurring appropriation of only $500,000 to address the broad nature of all of the issues that we have. So over time, we've built up a lot of deferred maintenance issues at the historic properties that we manage. But in the last couple of years, we've got a lot more dedicated funding. Some of you are familiar with a project like the Grove, which was a massive effort, required $6.5 million of funding. So we can't always get, you know, that type of funding to address a whole-scale rehabilitation project. So we've been doing things on a kind of a smaller scale. And then in the recent years, we've gotten money, for example, to build a new facility in San Luis, the artifact curation facility. That was a $13.8 million appropriation. Katie mentioned we have a budget issue that appears was in the governor's budget and is now in the Senate budget for $7 million to add on to that project to put the conservation facility there. So that's currently an issue that we're tracking very closely. And I've spoken to you all before that we're going through all of the properties that we manage and doing lead and asbestos mitigation on all of the properties. And many of these were restored 20, 30, 40 years ago when the wiring systems, you know, in some cases are from those ages as well, and the types of materials, as Rick knows, used in wiring prior to the EPA and things like that. So we're doing a lot of work on lead paint abatement, and we received $3.4 million last year from the legislature. And so this year, in the House and the Senate, we have a dollar figure that is currently in the budget offer. So our original ask of just under $7.1 million, that's in the House bill, and the Senate bill's at 6.1. So we're tracking on that, and our major initiative, if we were to receive that funding, would be to look at the Brokaw-McDougall house. So the top right, Brokaw-McDougall, 1856, it's one of the best preserved antebellum residences in the downtown core of Tallahassee. It was actually a kit house. It came down to St. Mark's and was assembled. It's all mortise and tenon joints in the construction and massive beams and things like that. And currently, one of our funded projects under the American Recovery Act, deferred maintenance, was to renovate the restroom that's on the first floor for ADA accessibility. So we've gutted the restroom. Alyssa's chosen some wonderful tile for the restroom, and so that'll make that, so it was,
I did.
yeah.
I was burned on a floor over at the Martin House, and now I just got all the finished.
Yeah, so we're working hard to get that, which is a modest project, but in the future, we will turn around and do a massive effort on the interior of the building, really a full restoration. It was restored in 1974 to 1976 as part of the U.S. bicentennial effort. Landscaped grounds are the original landscaping plan. There's 4 trees planted in the exact position to create kind of a quad in front of the house, so it's a tremendous house. We've done work on it in the past. We put a new roof on it. We restored the windows. I did a project on some wood rot exterior things like that recently, but we're gonna, hopefully that funding, that money I talked about in the lead paint abatement, a lot of it is for Brokaw because we really need to look at the electrical system, and then we need to do a full kind of abatement scope, which was never contemplated at the time that the original money was put into it back in the 70s. So Brokaw-McDougall, the Messer House is here at San Luis. I don't know if anyone has seen that. It's a wonderful and really interesting late 1930s house that's built like a parking garage. It's got I'm serious, and it's got poured concrete I-beams in the basement level, and it's one of the first houses that we can tell in Tallahassee that was built using that method of construction. It's cinder block, and then it's got a limestone rubble veneer, and it's been painted over. And we got a lot of wood rot issues. We got, you know, normal kind of gutter things, and we're also going to do a bunch of lead paint abatement in that facility. And ultimately, the plan for this, so this sits in the middle of the Mission San Luis site. And the mission director that we hired a couple years ago wants to make this really part of the wedding rental program. So we generate revenue in San Luis to offset operating costs, and this will be a tremendous asset. It's got a really large great room when you walk in the front. It's got these tremendous, what were offices for the Messer family, and we're doing some ADA upgrades in the restrooms in this eventually as well. So that 3.4 million we currently have is primarily dedicated to a full-scale restoration of this building because, well, we went back in time 10 years, there was a thought that we would move it, that we would take it off the middle of the site. Well, you know, we're not doing that, and so now that we're not doing that, we are going to restore it, and so this is really the first major restoration. There's been some building systems upgrades, but it's a tremendous building, and so we'll have to take you all there. And what everybody's really excited.
Is it early 1910?
No, it's like 1936.
Okay, because of the concrete beams that was one.
Yeah, it was very, very early concrete for here beams that we can tell, and the basement is probably 10-foot basement.
Really?
Yeah, it's tremendous. It's really, really fantastic house.
Lucky there.
Bomb shelter in the basement.
Well, it's high and dry.
Yeah, high and dry. It's on a site, so there was a antebellum plantation house on that site.
Beautiful.
Which was likely demolished in that 1930s period, and then this was built by the Messer family, and he, as it goes, had a lot of money that was owed to him, and he translated that into the trades, right, in the Depression years, so getting a lot of really skilled people to work on the house. So there's fantastic, you know, walnut built-in staircase and paneling and really great built-ins and a built-in butler pan. Yeah, so it's really, really interesting house. So it's got a lot of uses, and, you know, for Alcott McDougall, similarly, we've really been using it as offices, and so when we go through this massive restoration, we're going to recontemplate the uses, you know, of the facility. And some of you know, for many years, it was rented under City of Tallahassee, under a lease, and they were renting it for events. And so it's got two tremendous chambers on the first floor, large intact pocket doors that open on both sides. So really great, a lot of uses could be done there. Council House at San Luis, we're in the process of rethatching it. I borrowed this from the past. This is when they removed the natural thatching, but we're actually putting a synthetic thatching. So the next meeting, we'll be able to show you all progress photos on the rethatching. It's going to start the very last week of this month, and it's going to take 4 weeks. The contractor is supposed to do time-lapse on that and some drone stuff, and so we should get some really cool, like, marketing things that we can distribute, so we're really thrilled with that.
How long did that synthetic last as opposed to what we were?
I think the warranty's 25 years, 20, 25.
They got it on the church and the priory.
And it looks
And the
great.
church, yeah,
Right.
the church has been really good, and it's a really highly fire-rated project, and it's got a lot of,
What's the material?
it's like a plastic, I guess it's like, it's a plastic
so real.
material. It looks real, yes,
Looks
Rick.
good.
Can you send me that, because I'm doing I need that for.
I believe the project, I think I want to say the product is called Endura Reed, and it is primarily used in theme park installations. So like the contractor who's doing ours, the roofing contractor, he was telling me that, you know, you go to like Volcano Island or whatever in Disney, I guess it's Disney, might be, thank you. Those with kids, no. So he said that their primary, he said the biggest one they've done is 200,000 square feet.
Holy crap.
And so he said that, but they installed it in active theme park situations. And so they're doing, so when you're in the council house and you look up, you'll see the thatching from below, and then there's a underlayment and some purlins and stuff like that, and you'll see it from above too. So it's really like a double layer of thatching. And yes, we installed it on the church roof as well.
That was your test case.
That was and it worked out really well from a distance. It's
Even close up.
It's very, very good, and we tried to light it on fire, and it doesn't light on fire. So those kind of things are really, so we're hoping that's the ultimately like a very, very long-term solution, because when this was done in the natural thatching, the inability, it's, you know, several $100,000, the material degrades, animals, you know, birds nest in it and things like that, and it clumps, you know, becomes very heavy clumps and degrades the wood framing of the structure. So I think the synthetic is going to be the long-term solution for us, and so we're really lucky to get that funded. It's $1 million to rethatch it.
Yeah, right.
It's $1,000,019.
But it's like probably 400,000 to thatch it.
Yeah, it would be enormously.
And it's replacing it every 7 years or 8
Yeah,
years.
so we're going to save the state of Florida a lot of money over the long term with that project. We're doing some projects at we're doing a restroom renovation. The little building on the far right, nondescript, is what we call the carriage house at the Governor Martin House. We recently gutted bathroom there, And that's also being done so that the archaeologists, when they come in off of their fantastic new boat, actually have hot water and a hot shower on site.
Yep,
And we did that also as an ADA restroom, and that's just a really good operational upgrade for us. They do the long-term goal for that building is also to use it as a laboratory. So we did small things like putting eye wash stations, into the sink, so that when we're working with, hazardous chemicals and things like that in the house, that they have somewhere that's functional, and that we're repurposing. This building is interesting as we get into it more. We've done a complete exterior restoration. The blue tape over the big garage door was while we were restoring the outside, but now we've put in a couple $100,000 into this small building, which for many years had not been painted. We did a huge lead paint abatement project on the outside, replaced a bunch of rotten siding. I mean, everything from crawl space encapsulation to pest exclusion. And so without this money that we get from the legislature, we wouldn't be able to chip away at these small buildings, which, serve a big purpose for us, serve a big purpose in supporting BAR in this case.
It's a wonderful laboratory space, and actually the bathroom before this renovation was unusable, really.
It was absolutely unusable. The floor had sunk down, and there was we thought, a brick pier that had not moved and then pushed it up. But when we ripped out the floor, we have pretty much determined that we think that was the base upon which a small stove sat, and then a flue would have gone up. So it was not hollow below the floor level, but we, encountered that. So that looks like the floor sunk, but the base of the flue was in place, and so it pushed up the tile, and there was an old bathtub in there. And it's interesting. And any of you all that work with old houses, you start ripping things apart, and you find so much more than you bargained for. But it's been built onto many times. It's got salvaged materials. It has these over 12-inch floor joists that are way over framed for the building. So we think maybe somebody salvaged it from another building. And when we took apart the garage on the front and removed the siding, we found some big 6x6 posts that were painted on a couple different sides. So they probably built this out of things they pulled out of other buildings, which is always a really cool find. And we'd like to talk about that on social media.
That was beautiful lumber.
Yes, great lumber in these buildings, non-replaceable. So, obviously we keep everything we can. And some of you are familiar with the Knott House. We're in the process of designing a HVAC system replacement and a fire suppression system replacement, and that's proven to be pretty complicated within the historic house. And they originally put the fire system in 1992, and it was a dry pipe. We're switching to a wet pipe system. The dry pipe system encounters the growth of the organic material that forms in the pipes because it cannot completely drain. And so it gets this this what they call mick. It's like an orange kind of substance, and it's really nasty. So we have low confidence in its ability to actually discharge water in the event of a fire, and so we're having to replace that entire system. And so we're happy to have funding for that, and the design has been ongoing for a while, and I'm hoping to get some actual pricing on that pretty soon. Alyssa, promise. It's been taking a while, but we need to go forward there, Jeremy. So Union Bank, you all came to the museum. I wanted to jump on that a little bit. Here's the beautifully restored bank. It's a really interesting building. Of course, as you all know, briefly, it was moved
That's
from...
a terrible picture.
This one here. That's when it's lifted up and moved from its original location. This would be the Doubletree Hotel and its parking deck and things when it was under construction, so that's where it was. So they lifted it up, cut it loose from the foundation, moved it over to its present spot. The little tiny picture on the right, we had to do a lot of exterior wood rot repair. We had a lot of roof code issues. We did some code corrections in the bathroom. A lot of painting up at the top. You can see in the right corner where we had a bunch of stucco repair to go back and do. We could greatly improve the roof drainage. That was kind of insufficient and resulted in some damage to the interior over time. And I thought this picture was kind of neat. This is right after they moved it to its present location, and it's just a reminder that if, preservationists didn't step in and save this building, we wouldn't have it today. And that was in the 1970s.
71, they moved that building.
71, it took them 13 years to get the...
It took them 3 days to go half a mile.
It's wild. So we're lucky to find a lot of really cool photos of that, and there's, of course, a lot in the exhibit on this, but we're very happy to have it open. And Jeremy, you can go to the next one. The exhibit are really great. We're able to display the original bank book. This was put together by our senior curator, Michelle Hearn, and our curator of exhibits, Jim Fleming, built all these custom cases. So, and we're looking at this great glass nine,
very nice.
you know, using the architecture of the building to inform the construction of casework, which is something we've developed as kind of a theme in our historic houses, kind of starting with the Grove, and we've had some built for the Martin House. That
It matches the shutters of the windows, which are very ingenious.
Yes, we like those little pocket shutters.
Little pockets that
And they're
disappear.
still operable.
They did, I opened 3 of them.
Yes, good.
They work well, I need to keep it working.
Yeah.
So much is fake nowadays.
Yeah, it's great to see something that's actually real. And we did,
Quality control.
On the exterior,
Yes.
there was a copper gutter.
yeah, coming
Halfway.
out of the little, roof, yeah.
Was it always like that, just?
It was like that since 1984. That's how they restored it. This little, the way the gutter
I
comes
saw
out.
that.
That's exactly how they restored it. With the, this would have been Herschel Shepherd, designed this. So that would have been their solution for draining off of these little porticos. Because when the building was moved over, they lost the portico, right? And the side entrance was a non-existing entrance, and so they had to build that. There was if you look at the old pictures of the building, we're not seeing the correct side, but if you flip to that other side, the bank vault was kept in that vicinity, so they didn't have a window for security, right? So they opted to cut a new hole just down from this window and make a new entrance that now enters into the large bank.
So that door and porch was not there originally?
No, it was not. In fact, before.
Yeah, and it feels like it's, boy, Shepherd, such a.
It feels just like it.
And the door, by the way, was like, the front doors are little, bifold, casement doors.
Yeah, they're little bifolds, yep.
The side door's the same, but as one, so it works as an ADA door, but it looks like the double doors.
Where's that pocket? Yeah. Where are they?
inside.
Inside.
Oh, they're inside.
Inside, which is another
Yeah,
unique detail.
They close in the canted part of the window casings, and you can open them up and use them as hurricane shutters, I guess. I mean, that'd be another good long-term project for this, is like a hurricane shutter solution, because the windows are so tremendous.
They're huge.
And they're huge, and so we're probably looking at like the corrugated panels that you can kind of get in, maybe clear, I don't know, I mean, Rick, you're in South Florida, you know
They have the roll down,
Like the barnacle uses.
that they're just like, you just clip them on and they're like, mesh.
Oh, those net, yeah, we have that
Like a screen, yeah.
yeah, we have that at the Grove, the, armor shield.
The armor shield, that's
Yeah.
it, armor shield.
Yeah, and so we've had good success with that, it's relatively easy
Armor
to
shield,
install.
they use that in Miami a lot.
Yeah, that's
Like
what
the
we have,
barnacle
over at the Grove, when we have hurricanes, the big Florida room, I've got a lot of experience installing those,
So,
many, many times.
so John, we're just starting the Everglades Bank
Yes,
Community Center. Could you send me photos of whatever you have to inspire them, because they've raised some good money. They got HUD grant, right? $3 million HUD grant, I can't believe it, you know, and some state money too, right? So,
A little bit less.
but the $3 million was a home run.
yeah, I can send you a good photo of the.
And very simple, they wanna use it for community purposes,
Yeah.
and I love everything, the kitchen, the bathroom, everything that was on inside.
Yeah,
It's
and
an
Alyssa,
inspirational
also, that's
case study.
Alyssa's,
I know,
kitchen there.
that's why I looked at
I want a
that.
plaque for the kitchen.
Yeah. So good, you know, great exhibits, great stories, we can,
It's fine.
What's that?
well, we're lucky too, because we have designers, so one of our designers designed this, Jen England, and so it's all, you know, really tied to the building, great exhibits, and I know some of you were there, so thank you so much for coming, and Jeremy, we can go, forward there. Frank, I put this in here for you, in fact. So one of the things, happening in Tallahassee is the bicentennial, I mean, it's the thing happening, and there's been an effort to try to reconstruct a log cabin, where the legislature would have first met in 1824. And one of our museum artisans has been building a small replica. And so, Frank, here's some progress photos for you. So we have, this would be, well, you can see the scale with the tape measure. And so he's, you know, building a little log cabin, even experimenting with, how to use kind of a mortar, including a log. And fabricating, I mean, that's a custom fabricated door that could be like that big. With a nice little handle and shaped, shingle roof and everything like that. So this thing will be going around town, but it's, the type of skills that we have in our museum, artisan shop, able to build, things like this.
When do you guys think you're gonna be done with that?
I would say, well, look, I mean, he's raising the roof now, he's got the roof going on. I think he's pretty close to developing this solution. He was looking at whether it was gonna be more of a gray color or more of a clay, had two different samples going, so, I think he's probably gonna be done with it pretty soon.
Wow. It'd probably take you to see it if you're, have time to.
This is Conrad, this guy is, unbelievable, the type of things that he's able to make, with his hands, and so he has great skills down there.
Yeah, confused, I was like, wait, what are they, I know they're not building this yet.
No.
Not a big one.
Right.
Yeah, but I do want to see an update on that, and, we'll go, to the next, we, worked on another exhibit we'd really like y'all to come to if you have time. If not now, it'll be up through June 30th. At the Grove, we worked with a private collector here in Tallahassee who has a lot of tremendous early territorial period Florida maps. And so we curated a map exhibit at the Grove that pairs it with artifacts from VAR. So for example, we have artifacts from St. Mark's and Port Leon, and then we pair that with one of the coastal survey maps of St. Mark's that shows the line of the railroad that was destroyed by the hurricane in 1843 and where the docks and the warehouses were there at the confluence of the Wakulla and St. Mark's River. So giving people the way to connect the archaeology site to things that are on these historic maps. And my favorite map in the exhibit is this one here. This is an 1829 map developed.
All the way to the Mississippi.
That's when it was developed, Judy. It was for contemplating where a canal would be constructed across Florida. And as you all know, the Spanish started this process of thinking about building it, but the native people of Florida traversed the peninsula using the Swanee River and through the Okefenokee Swamp into the St. Mary's, and the canoes that we find everywhere, ample evidence of that.
Yes.
And so we're hoping to add a canoe to this exhibit to underscore that idea that the ingenuity of the native people was something that was picked up later. And the reason for including this map in particular is the original owner of the Grove, Richard Keith Call, represented Florida in Congress at the time this map was created. So he very likely came into some proximity to this exact map. It's extremely rare. It's 7 feet long. So it's really, really, really fun, and we kind of tried to take that and develop the whole exhibit based on that. But we have artifacts from sites like the Governor Martin site. We have artifacts from sites like the Tanton Leslie and Company trading post that was on the actually the Wakulla River.
Oh, there's one on Wakulla,
There was a Wakulla one that was destroyed, attacked a couple different times by William Bowles, but that's a whole thing we won't go into. But this is the kind of thing that we're able to do at the Grove. Temporary exhibits. This will be up through June, and it's all related to the bicentennial. And so,
Real quick
yes,
question
sir,
is
Frank.
map on the lower left, is that the original or is that?
This is actually a print. We
Okay.
have a combo in this exhibit of maps that we made digital prints from Library of Congress, but the original maps that are on loan from Armand Cognetta, who's the dermatologist here. He has about 100 maps that he's collected.
A real collector,
A real collector, and they span, a lot of them are nautical charts, but a lot of them are very rare. And so he's been a great partner to loan us as much as we want, just to show his maps. And so many of them overlap because of that long history of the Grove. So for me, I actually curated this exhibit. It's really pretty useful to be able to go in and pick out of 100 maps, 7 or 8, and build an exhibit around it. I mean, there's almost infinite exhibits that hide in a collection like that. So one more thing, I think, Jeremy, okay. So because you all were so generous with your time, I thought it would be useful to just give you a snapshot of what we got coming up. So this Friday, there's a Black History Arts and Culture Festival here at the R.A. Gray building, and that starts at 6 o'clock. There's musical performances, vendors, selling things, including food, and that's put on by Division of Arts and Culture, and a lot of us are working at that. We have the Union Bank public opening is Saturday. We have a fabulous program at the Grove, organized by the education manager at the Grove, who is a tremendous vocal performer in his own right. He has invited some colleagues from FAMU and Florida State to do a recital at the Grove, connecting back to the history of the site. We have the Florida Historic Capitol Museum, one of our key partners, opening up their bicentennial exhibit on the 29th of February. Katie mentioned March is Florida Archaeology Month. Our signature event for that Archaeology Month celebration will be at San Luis. We have a unit open near the new artifacts facility that Public Lands Archaeology is working on. We'll be doing tours of the collections facility, presentations. We actually have a meeting about it at 3 o'clock, so more to come on that.
And it's coordinating with Free Day,
That's right.
So it'll be free to the public.
So Mission San Luis is free that day, and it'll be all about our Florida archaeology. And we have another one of our partner organizations, Tallahassee Historical Society, is having a symposium at San Luis, March 21st and 22nd. Historians, including Jane Landers, is doing a talk.
Really?
Andrew Frank is doing a talk. Mike Denham, there's a whole list, Larry Rivers, and others. Yeah, so we got.
Which one is that?
That's the 21st and 22nd. So that's kind of a symposium, but they have a really good list, a lot of the really key people in Florida, and we're happy to be having that, and I think we'll get a lot of attendance. There's been a big spike here in the community and interest in things like that, so San Luis is the perfect place to have it. We get tremendous turnout for lectures at San Luis. If we're having a lecture, the best place to do it is San Luis because of the parking, the capacity, and honestly, the public's connection to that site insofar as the serious archaeology and serious research associated with it. So it's just a natural fit to do things at San Luis. And it's not too far off, Alyssa. We got to start thinking about May being Preservation Month. One of the things that we also do through Department of State to keep on your radar, we have the annual Emancipation Celebration. Every year at the Knott House, we work with the John G. Riley House. It's now a holiday in the city of Tallahassee, Emancipation Day, and the county. And so they do a grave decorating ceremony at the Old City Cemetery. And then we have events at the Knott House, and then we do open days at the museums. And of course, we got the annual Grove Day as well. I'm not sure when you all meet in May. History Day, if you happen to be available to judge History Day contest. Well, all of us have done it for years. And I remembered, just recently, it's now Tallahassee State College, so I worked that into this slide as well. So there you go.
And there's one more to add to the list, and Melissa can help me with the dates, the, Preservation on Main Street Conference.
Yes, in July, yep.
July?
Yeah, so we'll be
Is it 10th through?
13. Yeah, so 10 through 13, and we've been underway in planning, it seems like, Melissa, for, I don't know, the day after the last one ended. Yeah, so that's.
And it's here in Tallahassee.
And it's here in Tallahassee, so as we get all the schedule, I think we'll be giving a lot more to the commissioners so everybody can participate. But yeah, I wanted to end kind of leading into where your next meeting would be in May to kind of keep this on your radar. But this is just kind of a snapshot of how the department offers a lot of public programs, how we translate what we do in the other bureaus into connecting that to the public and making sure they understand the importance of preservation and everything that we do. So anytime you all want to know more about what you're doing, feel free to get in touch with us. We'd love to see as much as you can come to everything that we do. And thanks so much for your support.
John, you've been a busy guy.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
This is a very good update, thank you. A lot of this we hear sometimes, but a lot we don't, to put it in perspective and to see what really.
Judy,
what the money.
Judy, before we let the Union Bank project go, I have a question. Alan Morris asked me that was not where the bank was now located was not its original site, the one they originally intended. But actually, when they discovered that moving it down Appalachian Parkway, they realized that the forklift under the bridge could not support the weight of that. Moving across. I've never been able to verify that. I wondered if anybody had any.
I think John knows.
Yeah, John, what I've heard is something very similar to that. I've heard 3 different versions of the same story that involve the decision to land the bank there and the thought that the building moving company couldn't take it across the bridge that goes down Appalachian Parkway. Or I've also heard they were simply afraid that they had reached the limit where it was still stable.
Oh, look at it.
They were concerned that it was gonna come off of
they had to throw a log underneath it,
throw logs
into a barber shop or something.
That's right, yeah.
Stop it from rolling down the hill.
Yeah,
Stop it
rolling
from
down
rolling down the hill.
That would have been fun.
I think that is an interesting thing that exists a lot in oral history, and there was some reporting at the time in the paper that the state of Florida had done almost irreparable damage by moving it, and they were being accused of all kinds of things. And we have some of the articles on display from that time.
Yeah.
But what I think is really cool about the Union Bank, because it was not a private home, right? And it served as a Planters Bank and a Freedmen's Bank.
Right.
It spans all these different, people can find an interest in it, and I think we're gonna get a lot of people come to us and give us a little bit more of the oral history of this from the 1970s and 80s period of its restoration, but even things like the bank moving story. And because it doesn't have that kind of barrier of being affiliated with a single family or a particular narrative, it has this broader appeal. And so I'm excited to see what people come out of the woodwork with us, so we can learn more about it. So thank you, John, for bringing that up. But I've confirmed that through oral history, and we got a little bit of newspaper research on that I could look up and see what we can share back out.
That's the reason that they decided to move it, was that it was unstable where it was.
It was going to be demolished. The church that is adjacent there was expanding their footprint, and the Colonial Dames Society had the deed on the property, and they entered into an agreement with state of Florida where we were able to purchase it, move it, and then the funding to restore it took from 71 until the early 1980s to get the funding. And of course, you had the contact of the historic. It was looking like that, and the roof caved in. And it was really in bad shape. The legislature at the same time was expanding the Capitol complex, and they were going through the process of restoring the historic Capitol. So I think that momentum with the preservation community, and of course the trust was very involved with that restoration on the old Capitol, that helped provide some of the needed funding from the legislature, but a lot of this was funded by the banking community in Florida. Over, I think, 80% of the money needed to restore the building came from banks within the state of Florida.
Well.
So it was a combo, public-private investment in saving, and here we are today, having a nice event like we had last night, and we're able to do this now indefinitely in the shadow of the Capitol. This is our kind of embassy, Alyssa, as it were. Like Florida House, this is Department of State House kind of thing. So,
And to even make it a little weirder, last time I went to the property appraisers map, it's not on the property appraiser.
they never updated it.
It's a ghost building. There's actually, weirdly, like all of our other properties, say you go to the property appraisers, they're owned by the state board of trustees. Well, this is actually owned by the state board of trustees, but it's managed by Department of Management Services.
The land is.
Right, the land is, and they do all our landscaping, thankfully. But there's a statute that says that the Department of State owns the Union Bank. So it's almost treated more like an object because it was like there and placed there.
Like a line item.
It's a really weird,
Well,
everything about it.
in the large sense.
Yeah.
It is.
It really is.
Right there on
We
the
don't plan
rail.
to move it again.
You know, it's a great, case study for when people come to apply for grants, like how to do a side entrance, how to do ADA access, how to do the bathroom, the kitchen. I mean, it's a really great little case study.
Sympathetically.
It's correctly, right? Not on the primary elevations, on the street elevations, tucked on the side. I mean, I hope we use it more and more to let other people, when they're restoring their buildings, see how it should be done. Beautiful project.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad y'all like it.
Well, thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Is that picture of it being moved,
Everyone, yeah.
is it in the exhibit inside?
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we in fact, we found, in researching the bank, there were so many Museum of Florida History staff files that contained wonderful color slides that had been sitting in those boxes since we took the photos in the 70s.
Yeah.
And so by doing this research, we drug out all these really great photos, and that's from, that's on the archives website on Florida Memory, but we found 20 or 30 more that hadn't been seen since a staff member retired and put them in a box. So it's that other thing too, when we do projects like this, we're going back and looking at that generation of preservationists who saved buildings like this in the first place. And so now here we are 40 years later, restoring them again, and thinking about that long-term, impact that you all are, of course, part of by serving on a commission like this.
Yep.
And so it's good for us to think institutionally in the institutional history, and this is a good way to kind of remind ourselves that we're the latest in a line of people that
Only
are
the
carrying
latest.
this forward.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Well,
Thank
thank you.
Y'all are busy, busy.
Yeah.
There is one thing that, could I add, Madam Chair, is that one other thing that has happened at Mission San Luis is the collections building, and so the laboratory, that Jerry Lee's laboratory, and that housed all the Mission San Luis archaeological collections, really had, awful termite damage.
I heard about that. In fact, I'm going there now.
And so, yeah, so we had to move, so, Parker, if you come to visit the collections facility, it is rimmed, it shows our space crisis and why we need this new building, but we had to move all of those collections from there into our current collections facility, and everybody's kind of packed like sardines in there, but, eventually it was fortuitous.
It may eventually have to come down, because it's, actually the structure is just,
We don't even know
my
how it's
guy
holding
said
up.
that it
Yeah.
was the worst they'd ever seen, and we didn't know it.
That's right.
The only way we found it was there looks like what we thought was bubbling paint, maybe from some water damage, and one of our maintenance guys pulled it out and was like, oh.
Everywhere.
Wow.
So, the brick structure around that building, is the only thing that's original anyway. The building's been burned, and the system built on the inside of it, it's not really structurally attached. So there's some thought that we might just have to take it all down, unfortunately, but it's bad.
Oh. Well, those termites are very sneaky.
Yeah, we did
They
tend
really
to
are.
make sure they didn't go anywhere else, to any of the
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
properties.
Hitchhikers.
Yeah. And I guess we have a tour, we could offer, if anyone else wants to go on this tour out there.
Yeah, so, right, yeah, and so right now, it's not at its most presentable because it's loaded with, cabinets, in the middle there, but, yeah, Sam, Wilford, Dr. Sam Wilford has agreed to give a tour, so if anybody wants to come over.
Today?
Yeah, today after this, if you want to head over to.
Probably after
After lunch.
I don't know what time everybody wants to meet back over there, but.
Yeah, just let me, give me a time and then I'll let them know, yeah.
Yeah, there's the Panera Bread right across from the entrance, Mission San Luis, which is just fine.
And a great little Colombian restaurant.
Is that right?
Yeah.
There you go.
A good sushi.
And a Colombian restaurant?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, under that big sign over there.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing some, Jerry and I are doing some research together on figurines.
Yes, I saw they pulled them out.
Oh, my goodness, we're having a lot of good fun with that. So anyway, thank you, Jerry, pardon me, John, that was just very informative. Please keep us informed,
Oh, I will.
because when we talk to people, it helps if we know that stuff.
Good.
Right. So, any other business?
Madam
I
Chair?
had a,
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
go ahead, Rick, that's fine.
I had two suggestions.
Okay.
One, I don't know if this can be done or not, but the Secretary of State always comes to visit us. He seems very engaged in historic
Yes.
preservation. Can he talk to the senators about this SB 1526? Is that, like, can we share with him our serious concerns about this new law and do anything about that, or?
Well,
I know Alyssa can't talk to him, but can you talk to him and say, this is really bad?
I don't know if what do you think, Lisa?
I mean, I think if you all wanna reach out to him directly, that would be fine. I don't know what his limitations are specifically. I mean, I know he was in the legislature before, a lot of them. I would say direct, contact.
Do it person to person.
Yeah.
Not our chairwoman directly to him,
Oh, I think,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
on behalf of the commission.
on behalf of the
as well.
commission, I think it'd be stronger that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and, because you should be informed.
And our legislative affairs director was here during the
Okay.
discussion, so, you know,
Oh, I
her
saw
took that to
her.
heart, and
She's the one that was with him, right?
she was, that was our chief of staff, our
Okay.
legislative affairs, she was sitting in the chair.
Over there,
on the board.
okay.
Yeah, Catherine.
Okay.
So I know she heard that whole discussion.
Oh, good.
And my other comment was, can we have our meeting in May at Mission San Luis? Love that, I would love to, you know,
Yeah.
block the
I
time.
was gonna bring that
Yeah,
up.
Right?
we'll have to check the, calendar, because they do
Okay.
have other events
Right.
over there.
Okay. It
We'll
would
have
be-
to have it probably, since the classrooms have people in them, since we move people out of the Messer house.
Okay.
It'll be in the big mission room, so
it'll be a little cavernous, but, yeah,
It'll be
we had a
great.
meeting up there one time in the, historical commission meeting on the second floor of the main building in a room about this big.
Yeah, that's the classrooms though, so we had to, when we moved people out of the Messer house because of the lead issues, we moved staff into some of those areas. So but having it in the mission room is fine, we can just do it in front of one end.
And if you want, then we could do a more formalized tour, since
Yes.
that's right on the same property. The
Right.
next time, if it doesn't work out for today,
Mhm.
we'll, we could do it next.
Yeah, we can do like the full site tour.
Is there a place to eat lunch there, or no, do they have a,
They don't have the cafe, but that's, yeah, right across.
maybe we
Right
can order
across the
sandwiches or something, I don't know, just
We could,
thinking out of the
yeah,
box, you know?
we could try, have the CSO get some,
Sandwiches from Panera or something, and then go on this tour. I haven't been in a couple of years, and, it was spectacular walking into that Indian.
Well, the fascinating, that's the biggest council house.
hopefully it'll be
Ever.
done by the time you get.
Yeah.
I think it would be. Yeah, I think it would be done
Yeah.
by then. Yeah, it's supposed to be February 26th is the contractor mobilizes on site, and the roofer says they can do it in 4 weeks, which I always just add, 30%. But I think they'll be done in, April. I would think by May, typically the meeting would be I'm looking at the calendar right now, like the 6th, 7th of May, something like
I have
that.
on my calendar May 1st for the NR meeting and May 2nd for the.
This is what y'all have talked about?
So May 2nd, is that good for everyone for the next
We have that already,
time?
right? It's on our calendar already, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, normally these are on, like, National Register meets on Thursday, and then the full commission meets on Friday.
Right.
This month,
Right.
it's a little weird.
The first and second is
Yeah.
Wednesday and Thursday.
Mm-hmm. And then, in July, the 10th through the 13th is Wednesday through Friday. Is there any chance we can have the board meeting Monday and Tuesday, so we don't have to come up here twice?
We normally have one, I feel like we don't meet until, we usually meet in August.
Right.
Okay, so, yeah, we can look at
Like, move it up a month, just to...
that. I'll have to ask Ruben about the National Register meeting though.
Okay.
Because there's the formal notices we have
Right.
to send to PLD. So if we start working on that now, that.
But some people can't take an entire week off.
But some people, twice July and then August.
I know, but if we're all planning to go to the Florida Trust, you're talking about the Florida Trust conference?
Yeah,
Yeah, but have
piggybacking
the
the board
meeting
meeting.
in July.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
Main Street Conference.
I mean, I can't take a whole week.
I guess.
I just can't.
We could fit it into during the conference.
Yeah,
When-
Thursday during, when the conference is going
So
on
we
there.
can look at the schedule, because we're trying to develop the schedule right now. We're just trying to get proposals.
We do Zoom, no?
I can do it, but I like
You wanna go to the conference? Okay, we'll see what we can work out with the schedule.
Okay, just-
And having it within the conference.
It'll be great to come back.
It'd be nice for all you to be here during that time.
It's also a nice way to show, people that are involved in historic preservation across the street what we do. I know we used to do that in the Board of Architecture, we'd actually do it on purpose, where like the AIA was meeting, and then we'd have it so that architects at the AIA conference could come in here, how such and such person is a bad architect, and they're losing their license or whatever.
Well, you should be a part of the conference, maybe.
What's that?
A part of the
That's what,
Oh, like a session, like,
Alyssa,
so, okay,
Alyssa
that's actually.
suggested,
So the conference
yeah.
here?
Well, I was thinking
Yeah.
like one of the sessions, but maybe even have it like, so other people can attend and give.
Because it is open to the public.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's
Dr. Kira Lucas has mentioned in the chat, we had already discussed all of this, and said the, National Review Board meeting, August meeting will be August 7th to accommodate the NATC forum.
Okay, we'll go back and look again though to see if we couldn't make it during the Preservation on Main Street conference. What she's thinking of is the forum conference, National Alliance of Preservation Commission is a different week that's very close to that.
That's in West Palm.
But we may need, we'll look at whether or not we can move it
Okay,
sooner.
I think it would be great. I mean, I remember the AIA ones were great because architects would come in and sit and hear about the business of architecture.
Yeah, so I guess, for anybody that's on the National Register Review Board, keep that, what was it, Jimmy, August 7th? Keep that on your calendars for now.
Okay.
if we need to have the FHC meeting separately of that, we can, and have it during the conference.
Sure.
Keep that for another time.
We can split it up.
They're in the calendar already, both of them, okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
This is just a procedural request.
Yeah.
Can we have a standalone agenda item added to the main meeting? And the reason I'm asking for it is I'd like to know what the division in the state at large has planned, if anything, for the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which if we're going to do anything, I get the vibe that perhaps the FHC may have to and the division's gonna have to spearhead it, and while that'll be 2 years away.
26.
Of
Right.
May?
No, the
July 20.
Oh, yeah, it's 2026,
Right.
correct. So
I just-
we have 2 years, but if we want to do something
Right.
substantial, we're going to have to get the ball rolling sooner than later.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought this up at all is Representative Maney had asked me to bring it up because he's a passionate advocate for American history, Florida history. His wife is involved in Daughters of American Revolution, and they would like, I think, to get the ball rolling sooner than later, because from what they've been able to detect, we haven't really had any discussions at any level about what we're going to do to commemorate and honor that from a state of Florida perspective.
Yeah, you can definitely add that to the agenda.
Great.
And, have not started on anything yet, but that's on the radar.
Thanks.
It could be added to the ACHP list of events that they're planning. They're planning a big 250th too.
Okay.
Maybe reach out to DC,
See what they're doing.
and we can have an approved Florida event.
That's all for me. Thank you.
That's good, thank you. Any new business? Other business, I mean, is there anyone out there online or, that, would like to offer a public comment?
You're free to unmute yourself if you wish to speak.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I think that we have finished our business, and it's been interesting and enjoyable and informative. And welcome again to our new members, our new commissioners, and so we are adjourned.
Are we going to see the log cabin? Where's that?
I have fabrication, so yeah, I would say if anybody wants to see the log cabin, John, could we?
Yeah, let me call and see if they're here. I know the guys who were,
We can take you down
Is it all right if we go to Mission Station at like 2 o'clock?
Yeah, 2